I'm tired.
The Late Morning Program with Nam Ras Podcast.
Hare Krishna, Prem, Prayojan, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for joining me on the Nam Ras Podcast. I really am honored to have you here today.
It's an honor to be here and have a chance to serve our glorious Guru Parampara.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. So for those of you who don't know, Sripad Prem Prayojan Prabhu is a wonderful preacher, teacher, mentor to many devotees. And, I'll let you go into your history a little bit, but I've known of you for many years now, hearing your classes online. You're very, very learned and very just practical in your Krishna consciousness, the way you preach and the way you teach. And so it's just really going to be a treat today to speak with you. And so maybe we can start off there. Tell us a little bit about how you came to Krishna consciousness and just a little bit of context for our viewers.
Yes, I had an interest in the philosophy of India from an early age.
Right.
Yeah. When I was 11 years old, my father gave me a copy of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras.
Mm-hmm.
So I had some interest. And then as I became older, I became interested in Bhagavad Gita. And I had a friend at school who, he was visiting a Hindu temple. And he was learning Sanskrit there from the local priest. And he told me about it and he invited me to come. So then I went to the Hindu temple and had my first darshan in the presence of Shri Krishna, and of course many other deities there. It wasn't an exclusively
Right.
it wasn't a Gaudiya temple,
Right.
and but there were some books of Srila Prabhupada there, and that's where I first got Srila Prabhupada's books and became interested in his presentation. I'd read other editions of the Bhagavad Gita.
Right.
I read first Juan Mascaro. It was a poetic presentation of Bhagavad Gita, not by a devotee, and I was moved by it. Then I read a Mayavad version, but then when I began to read Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is, then that was a completely different experience. I found that I couldn't read it for very long because it just felt so pure that it made me tremble. So I could only read for about 15 minutes, then I had to go off and try to digest what I just read. So how powerful are the books of Srila Prabhupada? And then I met the devotees in Kirtan when their Kirtan party were preaching at a big festival in England in 1985, in a Glastonbury festival.
The year of my birth.
Okay. So, and then I went and I visited Bhaktivedanta Manor, and then I joined there.
Wonderful.
So I grew up in ISKCON, in Srila Prabhupada's movement.
Right.
And by great fortune, in 1991, I was in India, and I met, in 1991, I met Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj, and I also met Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj, my Diksha Guru, because the Parikrama party used to visit Devananda Gaudiya Math, and the Devananda Gaudiya Math Parikrama party used to come to the ISKCON Mayapur as well.
Right.
So I had the good fortune to meet, at that time, who I consider two great Mahabhagavat Vaishnavas. And after some time, Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj invited me, come and stay with me in Bhubaneswara. So I stayed with him there until February the 9th, 1996. That's the appearance day of Prabhupada Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur. Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj had his astonishing pastime of entering into the eternal pastimes of Mahaprabhu and Radha and Krishna.
Right.
And actually a really astonishing thing is that 1 week before that happened, he told me that he was leaving. Yeah. I just, my service was making books. And so I was working on the manuscript of the book of Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj, but you may know it, called The Embankment of Separation.
Yes.
Beautiful pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his intense feelings of separation from Krishna in the mood of Srimati Radhika. So I was working on that book, and I'd written the introduction and the epilogue of the book, and I presented the manuscript of that part to Srila Gorgamraj to see if he considered that it was worthy, because it was something I'd written, and I wanted to know if he was satisfied that that would be at the beginning and the end of his book. So I left the manuscript with him, and he said, come back later. Then later in the evening, he called me back to his room, and I came in, and he said, Prabhupada Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, he said, this world is not a fit place for a gentleman. And he left by his will quite early. He said, I will also do that. But first I have to ask Gopal. And then the few days later, he went to the village where he grew up to his childhood Ishtadev Gopal in Gadagiri. And he prayed there. And then he told a very wonderful story that Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur used to tell about the wise old monkey, who gave a warning to the young monkeys that they should leave the palace of, that story, the palace of the prince. You can read that in the Upakyan Upadesh of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur. And from that story, he was implying that Gopal had given him permission to leave. And then he went to Mayapur, and in Mayapur he was telling the beautiful pastime of Radhika was about to give up her life in separation, and just in time Krishna arrived in Vrindavan. And when he came to the point when he said, and then the eyes of Radhika were reflected in the eyes of Krishna, and the eyes of Krishna were reflected in the eyes of Radhika, then he just called Gopal, and he entered the eternal pastimes.
Wow.
There. And so it was a very mystical occurrence. And then I felt, to whom can I go for shelter? Yeah. Because, in our conditioned state, our mind is very unruly, very difficult to control. We cannot depend on ourselves. We are very frail. So I knew that before I had the firm hand of Srila Govinda Maharaj, to give some chastisement, some correction, some discipline, and purification. Because the Santa evasya chindanti manovya sangam uktibi, the sharp words of a sadhu, they cut our ignorance and cut our attachments.
Yeah.
So I felt like, who will save me now? So at that time, an old friend, for a childhood friend of Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj, he used to come and pray and weep at his samadhi in Bhubaneswara. And that was the legendary Srila Fakir Mohan Prabhu. And I approached him, and he was very kind to me. And he began to take me here and there in Orissa to visit different holy places and different sadhus and give some instruction. So I felt some solace in my separation from him, and from Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj. And at that time I was wondering, is this the person from whom I may receive Diksha? And he gave a blessing to me. He said, I bless you that you will have a Maha Bhagavat Diksha Guru.
Wow.
And then just after that, I had a dream. And in that dream, I went into the temple at Bhubaneswara, as I used to do every day, and pray before Shishi Gornitai. And the prayer I used to say was, and this verse appears twice in Srimad Bhagavatam, it's quite important. Tulayama lavanapi na swargam na punabhavam bhagavat sangi sangasya matyanam kimutashisha. Oh my Lord, I am a resident of this world of birth and death. So what benediction should we receive here? Because everything is temporary, everything will just vanish like a dream. I don't want mystic powers, I don't even want liberation. Just give me one fraction of a second association with your near and dear loving devotee, with your own associate. So every day I used to pray like this in front of Shishi Gornitai to again find that type of association that I'd had before, and that I was feeling so bereft of. So in a dream, I was just doing what I was doing every day. I went before Gornitai and I prayed like this. And then I looked behind, and there I saw Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj was coming. And I gave pranam to him. And I said, "Oh, Gurudev, why did you leave me?" And he made a face like I was saying something distasteful. And then he said, "Leave you? Leave you? I am always carrying you in my heart." It was very touching. And I began to cry. And then he turned around, and Srila Narayan Maharaj was there, and he gave me to Srila Narayan Maharaj. And then I woke up from the dream, and my cloth was wet, because I'd been actually not only crying in the dream, but actually in real life too. And but I come from a scientific education background, so I was skeptical, and especially not trusting of my own mind, my own wicked mind. So I don't know, is this real or just some imagination, some fantasy or what? So then I took a train from Orissa, and I went to Braj Mandal and arrived in Mathura, to the place where Srila Prabhupada lived before he took sannyas, and where Srila Prabhupada received sannyas, and where his deity of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in this posture, from the league of devotees that he'd established in Jhansi. When that shut down, then what to do with the deity? So he brought that deity to Keshavji Gaudiya Math.
Oh, wow.
And it's installed next to Radha Vinod Bihari of Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj, his sannyas guru there. So that place is very, the place where Srila Prabhupada received the Gopi Bhav mantra from my Param Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj. So it feels very, when you go there, it's part of the history of Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah.
You really get this deep connection, like family connection with him.
Yeah.
And so I arrived there, and Srila Narayan Maharaj was sitting, and I came and I gave pranam to him, and he just said, "Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj came to me in a dream, and he told me, if you are following me, you are following him," like that. And because on the whole journey, the 1,000 kilometers from Orissa to I was praying, is this true or is it not true? Krishna, give me a sign. And then as soon as I arrived, he said these words, so I was really shook to the core. And then he was very kind. He said, "Stay with me all the time. When I eat, when I study, when I preach, when I travel, always be with me." And so he kept me very close to him. And he made me, I was living in the Math, and he made me go to visit an old retired teacher, which was his close friend who lived nearby every day in the morning to learn Hindi. And then after I'd got some preliminary or rudimentary mastery of the language, then he began to give me manuscripts of books he was writing in Hindi to translate them into English. And when he was giving lectures also in India in Hindi, then every 5 minutes he would stop and ask me to translate for the Western devotees.
Wow.
So that was a very very wonderful training. And I don't know if you're aware, but if you watch the lectures of Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami, in most of them at the beginning, he asked some of his senior preachers to stand up and speak on the topic.
Yes.
And then sit down, and then another one like this.
Yeah.
So he had, and if anyone said something wrong or made a small mistake or missed something out, then he would correct them there and then.
Right.
So it was a very intense training as well. And because all the main preachers through whom he used to present the points through them, as if he were speaking through their mouths, a kind of empowerment. So we always had to be ready,
Yes.
because on any day, at any time, any subject would be there, and he would say, "Stand up and explain this verse."
You can't go to sleep. You can't sleep or relax or anything. You
Yeah,
have to
yeah.
constantly be on.
Yeah, exactly. So it was extremely intense. Wow. And of course, there's between God brothers, there's a rivalry, right? So no one wants to, underperform.
Right.
So everyone's studying so much and very healthy. And loving rivalry.
Yeah.
And so that was his method of teaching. Sometimes my Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, he used to walk around the Math, and if he saw any brahmachari sitting around, he said, "Oh, what are you doing? What is your responsibility? A human being without responsibility is an animal." And so those who were had the strength or the courage to try to be close to him, then he would pile responsibilities upon their head, one on top of another, until you felt as if you were breaking. And so that's what the disciples of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would call aggressive grace. It's a grace, it's a mercy,
Right.
but it's so aggressive.
Yeah.
It's like we have a desire that we want to become Krishna conscious, but our Guru, his greed for us to become Krishna conscious is much more intense than ours.
Yeah.
And so that you feel that push all the time of his instruction and giving responsibilities, preaching, translating, distributing books and organizing programs and things like this, as if everyone was at breaking point all the time. That was a skill, and that was his aggressive grace upon the brahmacharis and others who were around him. So by his kindness, I had the opportunity to travel with him all over the world on the full world tours, about 24 complete tours of the world. Then of course in 2010, he had his pastime of entering into the eternal pastimes of Radha and Krishna. And of course it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. The degree to which a disciple has served his spiritual master. This is why it's so important to serve Guru as much as possible while they're in this world. Because then when Sri Guru disappears, the degree to which we've served and surrendered, to that degree we feel separation. And that separation connects us with the divine realm. Guru has gone there. I want to be there with him. And all the things of this world become just dry, tasteless, meaningless. So that's a great. The disappearance of the spiritual master is a very intense mercy.
Yeah.
But again, I felt, to whom will I go to guidance? And just as before, when Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj left this world, Srila Fakir Mohan Prabhu, because that time I'm living in Braj Mandal, Srila Fakir Mohan Prabhu came from Orissa and came to Braj Mandal with Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's deity. You know, he discovered the lost deity of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Radha Madhav.
Yes.
He's famous for that.
Oh, yeah.
And also for discovering the Samadhi of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Pushpa Samadhi of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that was made by Gadadhar Pandits in the grounds of the temple of Tota Gopinath. So then he appeared, and that was like, that was a recurring theme, that when my shelter and my Gurudev, my Prabhu, my everything became unmanifest, then just as he appeared before, again he appeared. Quite miraculously. And he gave so much consolation and kindness and instruction. Sometimes he came to my bhajan kutir in Radhakund and brought Radha Madhav, and they stayed there also. And then after that, there were some great Vaishnavas. One, his name is Vishnuji Shastri Chaturvedi Brahmin from Mathura, who had gone through the whole education in Varanasi, studying all the Saddarshans and in Varanasi and Vedanta and everything, and then come back to Braj, his home. And he was always absorbed in Srimad Bhagavatam. And even he was the Bhagavat Guru, or the teacher of Srimad Bhagavatam, to the Goswamis of Radharaman, like our dear friend Pundarik Goswami and others. He was so respected. And I remember him because he used to come and visit Keshavji Gaudiya Math every day. He would come, have darshan of the deities, and visit my Gurudev. And whenever there was some Dharma Sabha, some religious assembly, my Gurudev always used to ask him to speak something. So though he was technically in the Vishnu Swami Sampradaya and in the Anugachara Vallabhacharya, but the Vallabh Sampradaya and the Gaudiya Sampradaya are very close. You know, we have this common deity, Gopal, or Srinathji,
Yes.
right? Who's very dear, discovered by our Madhavendra Puri, but who became the Ishtadev of the whole Vallabh Sampradaya.
Right.
And even the son of Vallabhacharya, Vittalnath, once when the Muslims were attacking Braj, then Srinathji came down from Govardhan and stayed in Vittalacharya's house in Mathura.
Oh.
And because our Goswamis couldn't go up the hill to see him, because Gaudiyas don't put their feet on Govardhan.
Yeah.
So then they all rushed to Vittal's house in Mathura. And Rupa Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, Jiva Goswami, Lokanath Das Goswami, Bhugava Goswami, so many of them, they all stayed for some months with Vittalacharya there in his house at the feet of Srinathji.
Wow.
And, Raghunath Das Goswami has written a poem called Sri Gopal Stotram, glorifying the beauty of Srinathji. And in that stotram at the end, he describes that, as you know, if a pujari is really pure-hearted, then when he makes offerings to the Lord, his hairs stand on end, he has ecstatic symptoms. But Raghunath Das Goswami, he says, I saw with my own eyes that when Vittalacharya made offerings to Srinathji, to Gopal, Srinathji's hairs were standing on end.
Where's that described?
It's in the Stavavali, the collection of prayers, Stavavali of Raghunath Das Goswami, and it's at the end of the Sri Gopal Raj Stotram. Like that. So there was a very big influence of our Goswamis also on Vittalacharya. So there's a prayer that my Gurudev used to say every day, and we also follow in his footsteps in that regard, in the Mangala Charnam before class, before speaking.
Yeah.
Shama Sundar Shikanda Sheka Smarha Smurali Manohara Radhika Rasakamma Kripanidhe Swapriya Charana Kinkurim Kuru. Oh, Shama Sundar, beautiful, dark complexioned boy. Smerahas, you have a beautiful smiling face. Murali Manohar, you enchant everyone upon your flute. You are rasik, you're expert at tasting the rasa of Radhika's love. Please be merciful to me and bless me that I can become her kinkari, her manjari, her maidservant. So we see this mood of the six Goswamis, the Radha Dasyam, intense service to Radhika, expressed in the prayers of Vittalacharya. So this Vishnu Dishastri is coming in that line. And of course, in the Vishnu Swami line before Vallabhacharya, you have Sridhar Swami, who we accept to be the main commentator on Srimad Bhagavatam, original commentator on Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yeah.
You have Bilvamangal Thakur as well. Krishna Karnamrit was so dear to Mahaprabhu, he used to recite all the verses of Krishna Karnamrita every day as his sadhana. And of course, Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami has written the Sarangaranga the Tika commentary on Krishna Karnamrita. And being in Braj, because there's so much kind of osmosis between the traditional Vaishnavas.
Yes.
So he was very familiar also with all the commentaries of our Vishwanath Chakur Thakur as well. So actually, my Gurudev, many years before, with his young brahmacharis, and those brahmacharis have now grown up and become acharyas like Bhaktivedanta Tirtha Maharaj, he used to send them to go and learn Srimad Bhagavatam from Vishnuji Shastri there. And so it was my good fortune that after my Gurudev disappeared, I was staying mainly in Anandam Gaudiya Ashram, an ashram established by my Gurudev near Chaitanya Bihar on the Parikrama Marg there. And Vishnuji Shastri used to come almost every day. And we would have Srimad Bhagavat Katha together. And he was a very powerful person. When he would speak a verse of Srimad Bhagavatam with so much power that when you heard it, you didn't have to then learn the verse. It was as if it was just implanted into the heart. And he passed away actually just 3 years ago. Yesterday was the anniversary of his disappearance day. And also one speciality, let me say, of Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj is that in Braj he was very loved by all the Brijbasis everywhere, from all the different sampradayas. Perhaps you know that in Uchagaon, Lalita Sakhi's village, near Varsana, there's a place there called the Vraj Acharya Peeth. The Vraj Acharya Peeth, and it's the place of the Samadhi and the Bhajan Stali of Narayan Bhatta Goswami. Narayan Bhatta Goswami was a grand disciple of Gadadhar Pandit, and he's discovered many of the places. He actually inaugurated the actual route of the Brajmandal Parikrama and described the glory of all the places in Braj, in his Braj Bhakti Vilas. And he also started the tradition of the Brijbasis performing the drama of Rasa Leela as well. And he actually, just as Radharaman, appeared to Gopal Bhatta Goswami. So Lar Leela, the main deities in the temple on the Sriji Mandir at the top in Varsana, they manifested to him.
Oh.
Those deities in the Sriji Mandir, the main temple on the top of the hill in Varsana, that's a Lar Leela.
Yeah.
Lar Leela. Lalali means a beautiful, beautiful boy.
Yeah.
And Radhika. So they manifested to him there at the Brajacharya Peeth. So all of the pujaris in Varsana, they have Diksha in his line.
Okay.
And so it happened that one year the Acharya, who was the current representative of that line, that very important line in Braj, his name was Deepak Bhatta Goswami. He organized a big festival in Uchagaon, and all the Brahmins and the leaders of the Brahmin communities in Varsana and Nandagaon and Sonera and Kamai, Karela and all the villages of the Astasakis, they all came there. And on behalf of all the Brijbasis, they presented Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami with an award, Yuga Acharya Award.
Really?
The Acharya of the age.
Wow.
Yeah. And when he received, it was just such a nectarian moment, a nectarian atmosphere. When he received that reward, he said, actually, I am not qualified for such a title or such an award at all. Really, the acharyas of the age are our Rupa Goswami and Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and so on. I am just their servant. So I am not really qualified for this, but I have faith in this Dham, in this Braj Mandal, this place of Radha and Krishna.
Mm-hmm.
And he began to glorify, say, what is the glory of this Braj Mandal? The glory of this Braj Mandal is this is the place where Sri Krishna is crying, Smara Garalakandanam mama sirisi mandanam dehi padapalavam udaram. O Radhika, I am burning from the poison of Cupid. Please give relief to me by decorating my head with your lotus feet. He says, so the real Brijbasis, they realize the glory of this Braj Mandal is the glory of Shrimati Radhika. It is Radhika's place. That is the topmost glory. And when he was glorifying Radhika, then all the Brahmanas from Varsana and that side, they were all cheering. And all the Brahmanas from the Nandagaon side, they were feeling a little bit left out like this. And then he explained that we should know that the glory of Radhika is her love. But who is that love for? It's for Krishna. So don't think that when we glorify Radhika, we're minimizing Krishna. Yeah. But it's just it's a parokshavard. It's an indirect glorification of Sri Krishna. Mm-hmm. And everyone became overjoyed. So he turned the ceremony into just an excuse to just be immersed in the sweetness of Radha Krishna's pastimes in Braj. And so Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj, I feel like that he was like Sanatan Goswami. Because at the time of the Goswami, Sanatan Goswami was famous because he used to do parikrama everywhere. And everyone used to call him Bada Baba. Yeah. The most senior Baba, because he's even the guru of Rupa Goswami. So they just called him Bada Baba. Everyone loved him. Yeah. And he would visit their homes and ask, is your daughter married yet? And how is your cow? And he would just talk about general things with them to make the attachment, the heart attachment. Because if we have an attachment in the heart for a pure devotee, of a transcendental person who's actually appears to be here, but is really in that realm, then that's our great fortune. So once I was doing service for my Gurudev in the Durvasa Rishi's ashram. Durvasa Rishi's, if you're in Mathura at Vishram Ghat, if you cross over the Yamuna from there, on the other side, it's the forest of Lohavan. Mm-hmm. So the forest of Lohavan is, it's a place where Durvasa Rishi had his ashram. And so on Vasant Panchami, it's famous because all the gopis went there and they couldn't cross the river, so they took a mantra from Krishna Nitya Brahmachari. Perhaps you know that story. And the Jamuna parted, and the gopis crossed, and they brought so many food preparations to Durvasa Rishi, and to get a benediction from him, because Radhika's cooking tastes more delicious than nectar, and anyone who tastes her cooking will never be defeated or harmed. And it's only because of the blessing that Durvasa Rishi gave to Radhika that Mother Yashoda has requested, Jyotila, please send your daughter-in-law to Nandagaon to cook for my Krishna, because Mother Yashoda is worried. These demons are coming, they may attack my boy. But Durvasa has given the blessing that whoever eats Radhika's cooking will never be defeated and will have a long life and always be protected.
Yeah.
And so it's because of the blessing of Durvasa that Radhika has the chance to come and cook for Krishna every day. So later, all the gopis went to Durvasa to try to get a blessing from him as well. So my Gurudev, at someone had donated the land there and the ancient temple and the ancient deity of Durvasa Rishi to my Gurudev, and so he was renovating that and making a beautiful temple. You must visit there sometime.
Oh, I'd love to, yeah.
There are dioramas of all the various pastimes of Durvasa Rishi in different ages, in Satyuga, Dwapara, Triyuga, Kali Yuga, with the Pandavas, and of course with the Brijbasis as well. So I used to do some service there, and when I used to cross the Jamuna River, then the boatmen, they would ask me, how's Bada Baba?
He would be referring to
How's
Guru
Bada
Maharaj.
Baba? But they would be referring to Srila Narayan Raj. And it really touched me, because that's how the Brijbasis used to speak about Sanatana Goswami.
Right.
So whenever there was some special occasion, like let's say the prominent one was Rupa Goswami's disappearance day, then my Gurudev would organize a Dharma Sabha, a religious assembly, and he would invite all Gaudiya Vaishnavas from every mutt, from every line, and even Vaishnavas from other sampradayas, from Nimbarka Sampradaya, from Vallabh Sampradaya, and so on. And they would come, and he would have a conference and give each Pandit, each scholar, each Vaishnava a chance to speak on a subject. Like that festival, the subject would be the Avadan Vaishishta. What is the speciality of the contribution of Rupa Goswami? What did he give that is incomparable and had never been given before? What's the speciality of his writing and his revelation? And so all would speak, and my Gurudev would be the Sabhapati, the chairperson, and after each person gives some comment and some context. People might say some things a little bit different, but
Sure.
Braj is such a generous mood. There's room for everyone.
Yeah.
In the family there. And sometimes he would defer and give the position of Sabhapati to a very great Vaishnava, Sri Achutalal Bhatta Goswami, who was born in the family of Gadadhar Bhatta, the first disciple of Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, which is the main, among the Goswamis, that line is the main line that preserves the ancient living Qatar of Srimad Bhagavatam, because the Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, among the Goswamis, was the only one who didn't have a deity, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave to him his own Srimad Bhagavatam. Have you seen it?
I have not.
It's at the Gadi of Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. That Srimad Bhagavatam is still there, but you can only have darshan of it on certain important days, like Raghunath Bhatta's disappearance.
It's like a handwritten.
It's 500 years old, so it's
That's amazing.
Yeah. It's been tested as well. The Vrindavan Research Institute did some, carbon dating on it, and
Really?
yeah.
That's amazing.
So all the Goswamis, they used to hear from Raghunath Bhatta Goswami.
Yeah.
There's the famous story that he could recite all the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam in 3 or 4 different ragas, and all the Goswamis were listening there in Seva Kunj, and they were crying and rolling on the ground, and Rupa Goswami was just straight-faced, and they were thinking, but he's the most advanced devotee, he's not showing any emotion. And then they looked closely and saw that actually it doesn't even look like he's breathing. So then the devotee took a piece of cotton, from his dhoti and held it under Rupa Goswami's nose to see if there was any breath coming, and a blister came on his finger. because whatever slight breath was there was so hot from his separation, his finger was burnt.
Oh my gosh. I've never heard that.
Yeah. So the teaching is that, you see, if our heart is small and we have a little ecstasy, then it shows outside.
Right.
Just like if you have a little fish bowl and you put a goldfish in it, you can splash the water out.
Right.
But the ocean is so vast, even a huge whale can't make the ocean overstep its boundaries.
Yes.
So because Rupa Goswami's heart is like a vast ocean, even though his ecstasies were more than everyone else, it wasn't visible on the outside.
Wow.
So anyway, in that family, Gurdala Bhatta was his first disciple, and in that family direct line, Achyutalal Bhatta Goswami was born, and he's a worthy son. We don't in one sense promote a seminal parampara.
Yes.
But if they're qualified,
Right.
who's qualified is qualified.
Right.
So it's very qualified. My Gurudev said he's a real Rupanuga sadhaka. My Gurudev told me that personally. So when my Gurudev disappeared, then I used to associate with him, and it was just an arrangement that he started to come to the ashram where I stay in Andham. He started to come every day.
Achyutalal.
Achyutalal Bhatta Goswami. So it was a wonderful thing, because I just want to say that in the Shastra it says, Durapa alpatapasa, seva vaikunta vartmasu, yatropa giyate nityam deva deva janardana. When Ramananda Rai, he met with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and they were relishing Harikatha together. And Ramananda Rai said, please stay here for a few more days. Stay here for 10 days. Mahaprabhu said, no. Why should I stay here and relish Harikatha for you for 10 more days? When I return to Puri, you should give up your service in the government of King Prataparudra as the governor of Rajamahendri, and you come and stay with me in Puri, and we'll relish Harikatha together for a whole life. And then when Ramananda Rai arrived in Puri, then Mahaprabhu quoted this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam that says, Durapa alpatapasa, those persons whose tapasya, whose austerity, whose sacrifice is meager, it's very difficult, it's very rare for them to have the association of Mahabhagat Vaishnavas who are traversing the path to the spiritual world. It's it's extremely rare. And so I take it as just the causeless mercy of my Gurudev that after he disappeared from this world, even I didn't have to go anywhere. But the legendary Sri Vishnuji Shastri, the Bhagavad Guru even of the Goswamis of Radharaman, and Sri Achyutalal Bhatta Goswami, they were coming every day to the ashram when I was staying, and we were having Harikatha together. So it was just a very intense mercy. And so just if anyone wants to ask me in regard, well, tell me about your life, then I don't want to say so much, but the essence is whatever I have, or whatever small thing I have achieved, whatever I understand, whatever feeling I have, is only the combination of the kripa of those great Vaishnavas, by whose causeless mercy I had their darshan, their association, and the chance to hear from them and serve them. And so that's really the essence of life.
Yeah.
And I try to share that message. I mean, we speak Harikatha, we speak Siddhanta, philosophy, and the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. But the core thing is that we have to receive these things live and in a personal relationship with advanced Vaishnavas. And we should never let any boundaries, any kind of sectarian considerations get in the way of really having the darshan, the service, and the opportunity to hear from great souls wherever they are. As Ramananda Rai taught to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavatamati Kriyatam Yadi Kutopi Labhyate.
Right.
Interestingly, Srila Prabhupada said, I have taken this phrase, Krishna consciousness, from the phrase Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavatamati. When the mati, the consciousness, is bhavita. You know what bhavita really means? Bhavita, it's actually a phrase from Ayurveda.
Oh.
From Ayurveda, yeah. If you, let's say you want to make a strong medicine from amla, like a lot of vitamin C from amla. So you take the amla and you make powder, amla powder. then when you soak that amla powder in amla juice, until it dries again, it becomes surcharged, it becomes more powerful.
Double amla,
and yeah, that's called swabhavana, that it becomes saturated with itself. It becomes more concentrated.
Right.
And when you do that again and again, it's called bahu swabhavana. And when you do it until it just can't take anymore and it's come to the maximum potency, the potency is like completely saturated, then it's called bhavita.
Wow.
So Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavitati.
Right.
If you want your consciousness to be like that,
Yeah.
maximum power absorption in the sweetness of Braja, then Kriyatam Yadi Kutopi Lab, you must purchase it. But Kutopi means wherever it's available. Wherever it's available, you should run there. So Shastra says, Janana Maranadi Samsara Anala Santapta Dipta Shirsha Jalarashimiva. It means that just like a man who discovers that his hair is on fire, runs to the river, right? He's not sitting around thinking, I'll take care of it later.
Right.
It's urgent.
Yes.
And he runs with that intense sense of urgency. It's essential.
Yeah.
So in the same way, one should run to sadhu sangha, kutopi, wherever it is. And there, in that association, one can get the greed, the lobe, the greed by which that Krishna Bhakti Rasa can be purchased.
I have a question in that regard. In the example of yourself and with other devotees, I see that a lot of the association is like in the beginning of the sadhaka's life. When you're talking about associating with devotees and finding advanced devotees, is there ever a time where it's not exactly the primary thing, but maybe a secondary thing, like later on in life? Because what I can relate with is that in my beginning of my Krishna consciousness, it was super important to really associate with devotees. And it was really easy because I was maybe a brahmachari and single, not my responsibilities. But as time goes on and we get older, then, you know, the same way we don't associate with our parents all the time when we're young, when we're older, we kind of go to them here and there.
Yes. That's a great question. So
Before you answer, I just want to pause you for a second. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
That's a great question.
Yep.
And it's nuanced. First of all, generally in the beginning of our spiritual life, as we mentioned before, durapa alpa tapasa, those persons whose austerity is meager, it's very difficult for them to have the very high class association. And so the opportunities to have more and more advanced association comes as our life of sacrifice, as we make more and more sacrifice in our life, more and more service, then there's more and more reciprocation from Sri Krishna in the form of sadhu sangha. Just like Parikshit Maharaj, you know, he was cursed to die, and he came onto the bank of the Ganga, and there was no email in those days to send it, but sages from all over the universe, they appeared, they came there, and Shukadev Goswami came. And Krishna had sent Shukadev Goswami there like that because it was now the time in his life. He'd had a life of service and now he really needed that. So it's at first a living entity in his journey, he may get a little sadhu sangha and then more and more and more. And as he gets more qualified, more. Now, just as all the angas of bhakti are eternal, pratyakshavagam damyam susukam kartam avyayam. The performance of bhakti is avyaya. It goes on forever. You don't do bhakti and give it up later.
Right.
You don't do hearing and giving up later. You don't do chanting and give it up later. Do you do sadhu sangha and give it up later? No, it's eternal. It's eternal principle.
Right.
So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught to Srila Sanatana Goswami, Krishna Bhakti Janma Mool, Hoi Sadhu Sangha. Prema Bhakti Janmi Teno Puna Mukhya Anga. The meaning is that the root cause of the appearance of bhakti is sadhu sangha. Prema Bhakti Janme. And when you get prem, Teno Puna Mukhya Anga, it's still the main principle. It's the main active principle in our spiritual life, even when you get to prem. Right? So it's not like you get a little association and then just by that you get to prem and you don't need it anymore.
Yeah.
But rather, even when you get to the state of prem, you still need sadhu sangha. Let's say you attain prem and then you leave this world and you take birth in Krishna's pastimes as a gopi. And then you're gradually growing and you're married And then the full moon night of the Sharad season comes, and Krishna plays his flute, and all the gopis become overwhelmed with anurag. They forget everything, they drop everything they're doing, and they're running into the forest in the middle of the night. If you didn't have association with the Nitya Siddha gopis, then when you run, your mother-in-law and other family members will come with sticks, they'll lock the door and they'll keep you in your house, you won't be able to go. Why? Because to participate in the Rasa Leela, Prem isn't enough. Prem has to develop into Sneha, Man, Pranay, Rag, Anurag, up to Rudra Bhav, Rudra Mahabhav, at least up to that level, in order to participate in the Rasa Leela. So how will that happen? Only by associating with the Nitya Siddha gopis in Srimati Radhika's group will that progress take place. And so the Sadhu Sangha is the active principle in our spiritual life eternally, always. And so let's have a look at, because sometimes there's a controversy over, well, should we interpret scripture like this or should we interpret scripture like that? At that time, then Mahajano Yena Gatasa Panta. Well, what did the Mahajans do? What did the Mahajans do? So there's a beautiful story in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. There's a Brahmin. He comes from Bengal, and he's written some poetry, and he wants to read his poetry to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even though he's Trinada Pisuni Chena, he's more humble than a blade of grass. He's more tolerant than a tree. But Rasa Basa Jadi Hoy Siddhanta Birod Sohitina Parik Prabhu Mani Hoy Krod. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu cannot tolerate Rasa Bas, the fault of defective ingredients in the rasa, and he cannot tolerate apasiddhanta, the wrong philosophy.
Yeah.
And so no one can read anything to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu without being screened first by his secretary, Swarup Damodar Goswami.
Right.
So then this poet, he comes and he reads his poem to Swarup Damodar Goswami, and there's rasa basa and apasiddhanta in it, in his poetry. So Swarup Damodar Goswami mercifully rebukes him, kindly rebukes him. He says, Jaho Bhagavata Pada Vaishnavera Sthane Ekantarashai Koro Chaitanya Charane. If you want to study Srimad Bhagavatam, then you go and sit at the feet of a pure Vaishnava. You know, among the 64 angas of bhakti, one of them is the hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. So it said, Srimad Bhagavat Arthanam Asvado Rasikai Saha. One must taste the many meanings of each word and syllable of Srimad Bhagavatam in the company of Rasik Vaishnavas. That's what it means. So then Swarup Damodar Goswami, he said, Chaitanyara Bhaktagan Nitya Karo Sangha Tabito Janibe Siddhanta Samudra Taranga. You should associate every day with the near and dear associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And by their association and by hearing from them, Nitya, every day, then you will be able to enter into the waves in the ocean of Siddhanta. So that example is there. We can take, if we want to look at the Mahajanas, we see that Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, his Diksha Guru was Yadunandana Acharya. And this is such a graphic example. His Diksha Guru was Yadunandana Acharya, and he met with Mahaprabhu briefly in Shantipur. And he became mad. And he wanted to run away from home, but every time he ran away, his father's men would catch him and bring him back. And later, he met with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again. And Mahaprabhu told him, Stira hao gari jao na hao abutul, krame krame pai bhavaloka sindukul. Markata vairagya na karo, the loka dekaiya, yata yogya vishay bunja anasakta hoya. He said, make your mind steady, don't be batul, don't be a crazy person. Return to your home. You can cross over the ocean of material existence, but step by step. Krami, step by step. Don't make a show of renunciation like a monkey. Yeah? Monkey has no house, no money, no bank account, no clothing, lives in a different tree every day, sitting still. But what is he thinking? He's looking out for some female monkey or looking for someone to pass with some fruit to steal from them.
Right.
So don't make an outer show of renunciation while there's still a current of worldly desires and attachments inside. But rather what you should do is Jata Yoga Vishay Bunja. You can enjoy in a legitimate way the things of this world within the context of Dharma. Don't be impious and you should do this. Antarikoro nishta bahye loka vyavaha. Achirate Krishna tomai koribe uda. Internally cultivate your nishta and outwardly behave like an ordinary person, a regular person. And if you do this, in a short time, see Krishna will deliver you from all obstacles. And that's what happened. So he followed these instructions of Mahaprabhu, and after some time he met with Nityananda Prabhu, and Nityananda Prabhu engaged him in the service of all the Vaishnavas. You know, when he approached, he was giving pranam to Nityananda Prabhu from far away. And Nityananda Prabhu said, "Oh, there's a thief. You're a thief, I'll punish you." What was his crime? He said, "The lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are my property, and you're trying to get them without me. So I'll punish you." And the punishment is you have to feed all the Vaishnavas the Dari Chir Mahotsav, the chip rice and yogurt festival. And so Raghunath Das Goswami served all the Vaishnavas. So by serving the Vaishnavas under the guidance of the Akhanda Guru Tattva, the original Guru Tattva, then he received the blessings of Nityananda Prabhu, and very soon he was able to leave his home and he went to Jagannath Puri. And there, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took his hand and put his hand in the hand of Swarup Damodar Goswami and said, there are 3 Raghus in my association, and from today you will be known as Swarupera Raghu. You will be the Raghu of Swarup Damodar Goswami. He will instruct you. He knows more than me. So Mahaprabhu is saying that. Mahaprabhu is in Radhabhav, and Swarup Damodar Goswami is the incarnation of Lalita. So Lalita's 27 days older than Radhika, so she has much more experience in the Leela. Lalita Saki can give the instructions to Radhika. Durte brajenda tanaye tanu shushtabamyam ma dakshina bhava kalankini lagavaya radhe giram sri huitam hiti shikshayantim devim gunaisu lalitam lamat. Oh, Radhika, that son of Nanda Maharaj is coming. He's a rascal. He's a dirt. Don't be submissive to him. You should be very firmly contrary. Take my advice. It's for your benefit. Follow my words and you'll be happy. If you don't follow me, I'm experienced, then you'll be suffering. So Lalita Saki can give advice even to Radhika. So Mahaprabhu is saying, "Oh, Swarup Damodar Goswami, he knows more than me. You should learn from him." So Raghunath Das Goswami came under the guidance of Swarup Damodar Goswami. But one day, Swarup Damodar Goswami came and said, "Mahaprabhu, Raghunath wants to ask you a question. He's left everything, but what's really his duty? What should he do?" And there you see that Raghunath Das Goswami is very humble. He's not trying to approach Mahaprabhu directly, but he's approaching through someone who's very near and beloved of Mahaprabhu. So then Mahaprabhu said, "Swarup Damodar Goswami, he knows more than me, but if you want to receive some direct instruction from me, then I say this. Gramya Bharta na kohibe, Gramya Kata na sonibe, Bolo na pribe, Ara bolo na kaibe." Don't speak mundane gossip. He said that, she said that, it's like a disease now, and that's been intensified by social media.
Oh, totally.
Right? And it rewires people's brains, actually. It's very dangerous. So, but even in those days, Mahaprabhu said, don't become engaged in the gossip of what's going on here and there. Don't lose your focus. Don't speak it and don't listen to it also. Don't wear luxurious clothing and don't eat luxurious food. And then he told him, "Amanina manadahya sada Krishna nama labe, braje radha Krishna seva manasa kuribe." Don't demand respect from others, but give respect to everyone else. Continuously chant the holy names of Sri Krishna. And in your heart, manasik seva, serve the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna in Braj in your heart as you chant the holy name. Now, what's important here to see is that when Mahaprabhu met with Raghunath Das Goswami, when he was in a particular stage, he said, "Go home and cultivate your nishta and behave like an ordinary person." He didn't tell him, "You should meditate on the pastimes of Radha Krishna in Braj," right? Because he, of course, Raghunatha Swami is eternally liberated soul, but he's having the pastimes of going through the stages. So in his pre-Nishta stage, he gave one instruction. And then as his Nishta came and then he was freed from obstacles, then he gave another more advanced instruction. And so this is why sadhu sangha is an ongoing thing.
Right.
So if someone has association with the sadhu and they receive an instruction, if they follow that in their life, then their adhikar will change. Their eligibility will be elevated to a point, and then they'll require another instruction, a further instruction to raise them to the next adhikar. And on it goes like that. And so we see in the life of Raghunatha Swami, it's so graphic. First in his childhood, he used to play in the lap of Haridas Thakur and hear stories. Srila Haridas Thakur would take Raghunatha, he would come, oh, Dadu, Dadu. And Haridas Thakur would take him in his lap and say, I'll tell you a story about a little boy just like you. His name was Prahlad Maharaj. And Haridas Thakur would tell him about Prahlad Maharaj and Lord Nrsimhadev. So he had these deep sanskars from childhood.
Wow.
And the Qatar of Haridas Thakur was so powerful and so realized. Why? Because he's the incarnation of Prahlad Maharaj. Can you imagine? If Prahlad Maharaj himself is telling you about the pastimes, then that's going to be convincing.
Yeah.
Right? You'll develop faith and you'll have deep samskars, deep impressions from that.
Yeah.
So from his childhood, he had that association. And his Diksha Guru, Yadunandanacharya, and then his Shiksha Guru, Swarup Damodar Goswami, and the association of Ramananda Rai and others. And then when they left this world, Gadadhar Pandit also, and then he left this world. And then he left Puri and he went to Braj and came under the guidance of Sanatana Goswami. And then he left this world and then he was under the guidance of Rupa Goswami, who really became his main Shiksha Guru and main inspiration. In other words, he's Rati Manjari, he's serving under the direct guidance of Rupa Manjari in the spiritual world. So that's that relationship is our ideal.
Yeah.
Rupa Raghunatha Pode Hoibe Akuti Kabe Hamabu Jabuse Jugala Piriti. Prabhupada translate that as when will I become eager to follow in the footsteps of Rupa and Raghunath? So that's the thing. That's the question. Are we eager to follow in the footsteps of Rupa and Raghunath? That at each time in his life, he went from one sadhu to another, and when they disappeared, he went to another. When they disappeared, he went to another. Practice his whole life. He's there. That's what it means to follow in the footsteps of Rupa and Raghunath. So in my life, that's what I try to do. That at every stage of my life, I try to search out the most advanced and learned and elder senior Vaishnav that I could find in the world and be with them and serve them. And of course, I'm in the mission of my Gurudev and I serve the mission of my Gurudev. But still, that input, that sadhu sangha is so powerful. There's no substitute for that.
Yeah.
And it should go on. And I can tell you that when my Gurudev was about 90 years old, he was sitting on his bed chanting Harinam. And I came into his room, we were alone. And he looked down at me and he had tears in his eyes. And he said, "Oh, Prem, I really want sadhu sangha."
Wow. At that advanced age. And
Yeah. There's another very beautiful story once. You know Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj.
Yeah.
He'd just taken rest after lunch in the afternoon, and someone had come to the mutt, and he'd heard about him, and he came there and told the brahmachari, I've come a very long way because I want sadhu sangha, I want to have the darshan of a sadhu. So the brahmachari said, well, he's resting, I'll just wait. So then after some time, Maharaji got up from his sleep, we can say trance, his ecstatic trance of sleep, dreaming about Mahaprabhu. And so then he woke up and his brahmachari servant came to him and said, there's someone has come a really long way, and he said he's so eager to have the darshan of a sadhu. And then Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, pass my disguise. That means give him my tilak. Give him my tilak. So then he was putting on his tilak. He said, I'm going to put on this disguise because I'm eager to have the darshan of the person who's eager to have the darshan of a sadhu.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Amazing.
So yeah, sadhu sangha is a thing, really. it's most needed. It's most needed, and the reason is it may not always be available in our life.
Yeah.
But when we're fortunate and it comes, it's necessary. We follow, and then our adhikar becomes elevated, and we need more to go through each stage. Different instructions in each stage of our life, and so. The famous verse of Srimad Bhagavatam that really encapsulates this, and I'm sure you know, Satam prasangan mama virya samvido bhavanti ritkarna rasayana kata tadyoshnat asa pavagra vatmani shraddha rati bhakti anukramisyati. So here, shraddha means the eligibility for sadhana bhakti. Shraddha. Rati means the eligibility for bhava bhakti. And here bhakti means prema bhakti. So that means throughout all the stages, anukramisyati, in each step, kram means step, in each step, one after another, as we go through sadhana bhakti, bhava bhakti, and prema bhakti, satam prasangam mamavirya samvido. We should have that association, hearing the Harikatha, which is rasayana. It's a tonic, and it's very relishful. Mamavirya samvido. Samvido means this katha has samvit shakti. You can only see the sun by the power of the sun. So we can only see Krishna by his own internal potency, which is Sambit Shakti. So in the Shabda Brahma, in the words emanating from the lips of a pure devotee, the Sambit Shakti is transferred into our heart and gives us the spurti, the vision. And that leads us to a topic I'd like to discuss. I mean, you can say whatever, go in any direction. But at some point, I'd like to come to, because it's the 150th anniversary of Prabhupada Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur.
Yes.
And to celebrate this, some Vaishnavas who were organizing some of the big festivals during this year asked me to produce a book of Prabhupada Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur's lectures. So, in April, at the beginning of the festivities, there was a big festival in Mexico, where the acharyas of 5 or 6 different mats, Gaudiya mats, and also from ISKCON, so ISKCON Guru also came, and all together glorified Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur. So on that day, we offered this to Srila Prabhupada, Gaudiya Darshan. And it's 2 lectures, and the main lecture was spoken in 1929 in the Albert Hall in Calcutta to a large audience of Vaishnavas and scholars and intelligentsia and the dignitaries. That time, you know, Calcutta was the jewel in the crown of the British Empire. It was the big center of learning, and Ravindranath Tagore had received a Nobel Prize and everything, you know, so it was a very prestigious place. And Prabhupada gave and his disciples also, they gave a series of lectures, and then Srila Prabhupada completed it. And it was never translated into English before, so this is the first time it's available in English. And I promise you, and I promise all the respected listeners at home, that really these words of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur will get such benefit by deliberating on them, on the profound meaning. And it touches on this point about the power of live Harikatha, the power of Shabda Brahma, is discussed in this Gaudiya Darshan.
That's really interesting, because nowadays we do listen to a lot of Harikatha like through the internet. Like a lot of devotees rely on that.
Yes.
If they're like living in remote places or something.
Yes.
But that's not a substitute for.
No, it cannot. Shabda Brahma has 4 levels: Para, Pasanti, Madhyama, and Vaikari. And the Vaikari is the part that you can hear, and the others are on the level of the pran, on the level of the manas, and on the level of buddhi. So no machine has a pran.
Yeah.
The Harikatha is Krishna himself. So Krishna is only controlled or bound by love. So if a person doesn't have prem, and the machine doesn't have prem, then when you press the button, Krishna's not going to suddenly appear. Understand? So once, I remember many years ago, the devotees, they used to have these little black recording machines. Now everyone can make video on their phones. And they used to come and put them in front of my Gurudev. And then at the end of the class, come and collect them. So one time my Gurudev said, "Oh, this black box will cheat you." Why? Tadalama sita sakya justa datta Radharani said, "Oh, Lord Ram had a dark complexion. And he was very cruel. He shot Bali from behind a tree. He disfigured. He had Suparnika disfigured. And crows, black crows. They always come when someone's making a yagya. They come and they're attracted by the shiny things and they contaminate and spoil the yagya. So all persons of the blackish complexion, Tadalamasita Sakya, I don't want to have any friendship with any blackish person anymore. She's criticizing Krishna to the bumblebee. And the bumblebee says, you say you don't want to speak about him anymore, but you're speaking about him continuously. You don't want any relation, but you're speaking about him continuously. Then Radharani said to the bumblebee, Dustijat, yes, that's right. We can give up Krishna, but we cannot give up Krishna Katha. This is our misfortune. Tava katamritam tapta jivanam. This katha, the general meaning, Tava katamritam, the katha of Krishna is amrita, nectar. But the gopis are actually saying, Tava katha mritam, it's like death. We are the witness, our whole lives have been spoiled by this cheetah. Tapta jivanam. If you hear Harikatha, then your life will be tapta, you'll be burning. You'll be suffering so much. Yadanu charita lila karna piyusa vipurut sakridadara viduta danva dharma vinashta. Sapati griha kutumbam dina mutsrijadina. Bahavoya vihanga bhikshu charyam charanti. Radharani said, oh, who was that first person who first put a drop of Krishna Katha in my ear? If I knew it was, I would teach them such a lesson that they will never be so cruel to anyone ever again. Because if one drop of Krishna Katha enters someone's ear, then their dedication to Dvandva, the dualities of life, is completely smashed. They immediately leave their family members and they go to Vrindavan and they wander here and there like a homeless beggar or like a bird, begging for their subsistence. So be careful. If you see anyone with the Srimad Bhagavatam under their arm and with the tilak and inviting everyone, come, Harikatha, it's free. Be careful of these persons. They will take away everything.
Wow.
So the Harikatha that has that effect, that destroys our nishta, our loyalty to the dualities of this material world, is not going to come from a machine. It comes from the lips of a sadhu. Tasmin mahan mukarita marubich charitra.
But even if the pure devotee is, you're listening to them from the machine.
Well, that's why I was saying, Gurudev saying, this black box will cheat you. That's
see.
where they were going. He was saying that if you rely on this, then you'll not get the actual benefit.
That's why it will cheat you.
Because the Shabda Brahma produces Jatiti Pratita, immediate spurti, vision of Krishna. And that's actually hearing. It's called seeing through the ears. If a person has surrendered and they're listening deeply, they're fully surrendered, when the Shabda Brahma touches their heart, the pastime that the devotee is seeing in his heart turns into sound, comes out of his mouth, goes in the ear, and then turns back into the pastime in the heart of the listener. That's actual kirtan and actual shravan. That's real, shravan and kirtan. So when the devotees, before the stage of nishta, the devotee doesn't experience that clearly. And so he tends to think that speaking is just, kirtan is speaking about Krishna, and hearing is just, you listen to it and you go home. But actual kirtan is the pastime in the heart manifesting in the form of sound, and actual shravan means that when the sound goes into the heart, it's directly, that's the meaning. Yasha deve para bhakti yatha deve tathagaro. Those who have spontaneous para-bhakti, transcendental bhakti to Krishna and equally to their guru, and better, more even. Bhakti yata haro mesti tadvarishta guru yadi. It is stated in the Padma Purana. One Vaishnava prays, "Oh my Lord, if as I am devoted to you, I have more devotion to my Guru, then kindly give me your darshan." And Krishna immediately appeared towards that devotee. So the Vishesh Guru Sevak is more focused on service to Guru than to Krishna even. He doesn't think there are 64 angas of bhakti and one of them is Guru Seva. He thinks there's one anga of bhakti, Guru Seva. And all my hearing, chanting, remembering and serving is all part of my service to my Guru. So that's very powerful. So yasya devi parabhakti yata devi tata guru tasyaiti katita hyarta. Katita means the kata, which is that which is spoken. Arta means the actual substance itself. Prakashanti. It becomes illuminated in the heart. The darshan takes place.
Yeah.
So that's the nature of Shuddha Bhakti. That's why Krishna said in Gita, he's describing Raja Vidya, Raja Guyam, Pavitramida Uttamam, Pratyakshavangamam Dharmyam. It is a Pratyaksha Dharma. Bhakti is direct Pratyaksh, direct experience.
Yeah.
You can see Bhakti, Pareshanu, Bhavo, Viraktir, Anyatra, Chaisa, Trika, Ekakala. 3 things happen at the same time. When we engage, what are those 3 things? First, Bhakti.
Yeah. Bhakti.
That Bhakti means that we feel the taste, the joy of our seva vritti, of our service spirit expanding. And then Parish
Anubhav, the experience of
realization of the Supreme Lord, and Virakti, because you become detached from everything else. Like that. Could you imagine if you put food in your mouth and you don't taste anything, and you don't get nourishment, and your hunger doesn't go away?
Right.
Then you're going to have doubts. So if we're practicing bhakti and we're not having the Parish Anubhav, then it raises a doubt. And the fact is that we haven't entered into bhakti yet. We haven't entered. So from the beginning, Adoshraddha, Sadhusanga, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivritti. This is actually not Bhakti Tattva. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains in Tattva Vivek that this is Shraddha Tattva. It's the development from the stage of Komala Shraddha, soft faith, to the stage of firm faith, Nishta. And when the faith is firm, we really have Shraddha, then we can fully surrender. And so that surrender is the doorway to bhakti. So the actual swarup, the real nature of bhakti, begins to appear from Nishta, in the higher stages of Nishta, and going into Ruchi, especially, because bhakti itself is joyful. It's the spiritual potency, and so there's taste in it. Yeah. So the Shuddha Bhakti from Ruchi onwards is the actual experience of pure bhakti.
Wow.
So this brings us to the subject of Srila Prabhupada's Gaudiya Darshan.
Yeah.
What he's describing in Gaudiya Darshan, what he's addressing essentially, is that in every generation there's a crisis of interpretation. Right? In every generation of Vaishnavas, there's always some controversy. What is the scripture saying? What does it mean? And these controversies they're always going on. And how are they solved, or even why do they arise? Because, as one English poet said, both read the Bible day and night, but one sees black and one sees white. Yeah. Everyone interprets according to their own mental state.
Yeah.
So here, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur in Gaudiya Darshan, he discusses what's the meaning of darshan. It comes from drish dhatu, the verbal root drish. Drish means avalokana, to observe. Drish means sakshatkar, to directly experience. Drish means upalabdhi. These are the synonyms of drish dhatu. Upalabdhi, to attain, understand and perceive. So Gaudiya Darshan, the philosophy, if you like, of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is about seeing the absolute truth. So darshan implies 3 things. Drasta, someone who's seeing. Drishya, someone who's seen. And darshan kriya, the act of seeing. So Mayavadis, they try to do the Triputi Vinash, destroy. Those 3 will just all become one. They try to overcome that. What they don't understand is this, that we are not drasta. We are not the seers. This is a very important teaching of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, and during this year, his 150th anniversary, it's a great opportunity for all of us to take some time to return to his lotus feet and see what he had to say. And then we'll find that many of the controversies which are riling the Vaishnava community, he's already given us the tools to overcome them.
Can you give some example? Like, what do you mean by those controversies? To give an example.
Well, what is Raganuga Bhakti?
Right.
Who's qualified for Raganuga Bhakti? What's the real meaning of greed? what is the qualification of guru? What is the qualification of the disciple? Nam tattva. And it opens the door really to all the tattvas as well. Guru tattva, of course. If a person understands guru tattva, then all the other tattvas become available. If we mess up in our understanding of guru tattva and the relation with guru, then all of the tattvas are beyond our reach. So it's really fundamental sambandha gyan. So here, there's an interesting story on this subject of who is the seer and who is seen. When Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur was quite old, he decided to dictate his own biography, his own life history. So he called his secretary at that time, that was Sundrananda Vidvinod. And he began to speak and he began to cry. And he said, I wanted to teach something. I wanted to convey some idea. But very few people caught what I had to say. And this idea can summarize the whole tenor of my preaching mission. And that is called Drig Drishya Vichar, the deliberation on who is the seer and who is the seen. So we have the ego that we are the observers, the seers. And so when we come to bhakti, we think, now I'll try to see Krishna. But Prabhupada used to say, we don't go before the deities to see the deity, we go before the deity that Krishna will see us.
Yes.
Huh? And so this is a very profound thing, because all the transcendental substances, Mahaprasadi, Govinde, Nama Brahmani, Vaishnave, Sopapunyavatam Rajan, Vishwaso Navajayate, all the transcendental substances, Mahaprasad, we cannot see. It's aprakrita, it's supernatural. Aprakrita vastu nahi prakrita gocha. But the Mahaprasad, being non-different from Krishna, can see us. The Vaishnavas, we don't really see them with our mundane vision. If we think of Vaishnava as the object of our vision, we'll never know him. Once there was a Dharma Sabha, a meeting of Vaishnavas, and one Vaishnava that was there was saying, I knew Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and I used to give class on Bhagavad Gita, and he used to come to my Bhagavad Gita. He used to hear my Bhagavad Gita class. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur stood up. He said, you have never seen Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And then he said, what do you say? I went to him many times. I used to go to his house. You were just a little boy running around. He was very kind to me. He used to give me prasadam. He's not rude like you. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur said, as long as you think that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is the object of your vision, then you'll be cheated. Rather, you should think that you are the object, you want to become the object of the merciful glance of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Then you can realize his esteemed position as the eternal associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and as Kamala Manjari, the near and dear maidservant of Radhika, serving always under the guidance of Rupa Manjari.
Yeah.
So, the Prakrita Bhakta, the devotee in the initial stage of spiritual life, they bring with them from the material world the ego that I am the seer. I can see, my senses are capable of perceiving the divine reality, including the name. I am chanting. My tongue can produce the name. But a person who has heard that the name is transcendental, that the name is non-different from Krishna, then if they think I can produce the name by my tongue at will, at any moment, that is to think that the Nam, the holy name, is Jivadeen, under the control of my tongue. This is the 10th offense to the holy name. Aham mamadi paramo, Shrutva nama mahatmyam, ya priti rahito dhamma, aham mamadi paramo, namni sopya parada krit. So in the commentary on that, Sanatana Goswami Pad says that after hearing so many instructions of the name, about the glories of the name, if you don't have affection for the name, and you think I am superior, the names, I just control it. I just move my tongue and I produce the name. I produce God.
Right.
What are you thinking? That's a Prakrita Bhakta. That's a materialistic devotee. So Rupa Goswami prays, Narad Vinod Jivana Sudurmi Niryasa Maduripura Tam Krishna Nama Kamaspurme Rasena Rasane Sada. O Nam Prabhu, you who give life to the Veena of Narad. That means that when Narad Muni sings, Jai Jai Radharamana Haribo, he doesn't even pluck his veena. The veena comes alive and plays itself.
Right.
Oh, holy name, you are like the crest of a wave in the ocean of sweetness. You kindly fulfill my desire, and you do spurt, you manifest yourself on the tongue. Nam is an avatar. Kali Kali, Nam Rupa Krishna avatar. The avatar of Krishna in this age of Kali is his holy name.
Yeah.
So the holy name descends and takes over our senses. That's why the famous verse is there. Atashi Krishna Namadi Nabhaved Grayamindriya. Because the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of Krishna, they are not perceptible by our senses, but sevan mukhi jivado. When the tongue is engaged in service by continually chanting, after some time, swayameva spuratyada. Then there's spot, or the bursting into your experience.
Yeah.
The spot is a noun. The verb is spurati. He bursts into your consciousness and reveals himself. That's the holy name. So that's actual chanting. And before that, we do like Nama Parad and some Nama Bas.
Right.
And then when the Shuddha Nam appears and it takes over one's pran, it's aprakrita. The holy name is aprakrita pran, supernatural pran. And it takes over all of your pran. That's why Mahaprabhu says, Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. All victory to the holy name. That means I should become completely possessed. All my pran, my mind and senses should be completely co-opted by the holy name. And then just as our pran and senses reveal to us the material world, so when they become spiritualized by the appearance of Nam Prabhu Shuddha Nam on our tongue and other senses, Jivado, means beginning with the tongue and then all the other senses.
Yeah.
Then that aprakrita pran, the supernatural pran of the holy name, gives us the perception of Goloka Vrindavan.
I want to leave. This is amazing. You're just taking us on a whole ride of different verses and concepts and things, and of the tattva is really wonderful. But I do want to leave time for what we kind of spoke about.
Yes.
Of what we want to talk about is the Bhagavata Parampara of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in honor of him and his 150th anniversary. Maybe we can start with to kind of frame the controversy, you can say, maybe the criticism of it. Maybe I can start, and then you can also talk about that. But and then kind of what you have researched about and what you can tell about it. So the concept being Bhagavata Parampara, is it a bona fide parampara? And because there are people who say that the line is either broken or there's no such thing or things like that. Yeah. So maybe you can also elaborate on that, on the controversy itself.
I'm very grateful for this opportunity to discuss this subject, because it is something that if devotees haven't come across it yet, they're bound to come across it at some point in their life. Yeah. And it can be really unsettling. It can be really disturbing that your guru and Srila Prabhupada, and then for me, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshava Goswami, Srila Prabhupada's sannyas guru, and then Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur, Srila Gokishore Das Babaji Maharaj, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, Baladeva Vibhushan, Vishwanath Thakur, Narottam Das Thakur. We know our parampara, and we've heard it. Evam parampara praptam imam raja sayovidu. The knowledge is passed down from person to person, and if the chain is broken, then yogo nashta parantapa, the knowledge is lost and everything, and we know it's a parampara. And then it happens at points in a devotee's life, and they find out, Srila Gokishore Das Babaji Maharaj didn't have Diksha from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur didn't have Diksha from Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj he never even met Srila Baladeva Vibhushan. Right. Srila Baladeva Vibhushan never even met Srila Vishwanath Thakur. Vishwanath Thakur never even met Narottam Das Thakur. I mean, from a historical perspective. Right. Because they're all together. Right, they're with each other in Gora Lila, in their Gora Parshad Swarups, and they're with each other in their Manjari forms in Krishna Lila as well. But anyway, in this world, from a historical point of view, it seems that there are gaps in the historical continuity, and then we hear that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur spoke about this thing called the Sri Bhagavat Guru Parampara, and so people make this criticism that he just made this up. He made up the parampara and the whole concept of Bhagavat Guru Parampara is not valid, and it's not in the scriptures anywhere. So I'm not approaching this as an apologist on behalf of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, because there's nothing to apologize about. Those who are criticizing him, and I really don't recommend ever criticizing anything that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has said. He's such a person, such a divine transcendental genius, with such a profound understanding. If there's something that you disagree with, it's because you're wrong. And you really have to try to find someone who can explain the subject to you.
Yeah.
So I'm not doing apologetics for Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, because the very accusations against him simply reveal that the persons who are making the accusations, they're not actually deeply steeped in Shastra, or even deeply steeped in the tradition and spirit of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, even. And so my Gurudev, he wrote a book called Prabandha Panchakam, and within that there was a section on the Sri Bhagavat Guru Parampara, what he'd learned, the rebuttal of the accusations that he'd learned from his Guru, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj. So when I was quite young, I had the service of translating that. And
so the controversy was even since back then, like since
yeah. It's not a
new thing.
Not a new thing at all.
Right.
It immediately erupted. Even during the life of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, there were accusations.
Oh,
as well.
Really?
Yeah. So I had the service of translating that, and I discussed it a lot with my Gurudev as well. And so I obviously learned many things that I would never have figured out by myself.
Right.
By that. But then, after being endowed with the sensitivity for that subject, wherever I read in the Shastras, and I came across anything also that was connected to that, then collected together. And so some of those things I want to discuss now.
Sure.
So the first thing is this, that Srila Prabhupada, in the very famous debate that took place with the Goswamis of Bhagnapara, he delivered a lecture called Brahmanas and Vaishnavas.
Yes.
Right. So there he describes that in the Indian historians have noted that if you study the Vedic scriptures, that there were historically different types of traditions through which transcendental knowledge were conveyed. So in the Vedic scriptures, you have sects or methods, traditions such as the Sattvatas, the Vaikanasas, the Karmahinas, the Vaishnavas, the Pancharatras, the Bhagavatas, and these are different ancient traditions passing down Vedic knowledge. He said, but now at this time in Kali Yuga, they're practically all become extinct. And we're left with, in this Kali Yuga, and even at the time of Mahaprabhu, basically two paths which are given in the Vedic literature are left. The path of the Pancharatra, right? The Nard Pancharatra given, which is basically the path of Archan. It's really Vaidhi Marg.
Yeah.
The path of Vaidhi Bhakti, and the path of the Bhagavat, the path of the Srimad Bhagavata. So, because there are these two prominent paths, then the teachers of those paths have a name. So, the Diksha is actually one of the parts of the Pancharatric system. So, Diksha is technically called Pancharatric Diksha, right? So, because you have the guru who's teaching the Pancharatric system, so you have the Pancharatric guru, and the teacher who's teaching the Bhagavat, you have a Bhagavat guru. So when you have a succession of Pancharatric Diksha gurus, then you have a Pancharatric Guru Parampara, which is a Diksha Parampara, and if you have a succession of Bhagavat gurus, it's called a Sri Bhagavat Guru Parampara. So the name of the Parampara just comes from the type of guru. And now one may raise the point, well, is this anywhere in the scripture? So we see in the very beginning of Tattva Sandarbha, Jiva Goswami, he just begins with Atha Natva Mantra Gurun Bhagavatatadam. First of all, before I present the Tattva Sandarbha, I bow down to my mantra guru, that means my Pancharatric guru, and I bow down to my Bhagavat gurus. Gurun Bhagavatatadam.
He says that.
Yeah, it's right there.
Right.
It's right there in the beginning. Okay?
Right.
So then let's keep going. Let's keep going a little bit.
Yeah.
So then when you come to Bhakti Sandarbha, there he says, Sri Bhagavat Mate, that means in the opinion of Srimad Bhagavatam, Pancharatradivad Archana Margasya Avasyakatvam Nasti. It means in the opinion of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is not necessary to follow the system of Archan, which is presenting in such scriptures as the Pancharatra. It's not absolutely necessary. Why? Because one can get the Siddhi, perfection, by practicing any of the angas of bhakti. You can get perfection from Shravanam. Who was that? Parikshit Maharaj, right? Did Shukadeva Goswami give him Diksha? But he still got perfection by hearing. Who became perfect by speaking? Shukadeva Goswami. Did Shukadeva Goswami receive Pancharatric Diksha from Vyasadeva? No. And so one can become perfect by just with the practice of one anga of bhakti. And so the Pancharatric system is not essential. Avasyakatvam nasti. There's no avasyakatva. There is no necessity of it. But he says that if a person has two defects, Kadarya-shil and Vikshipta chitta. Kadarya-shil means that one has the tendency to engage in some type of immoral activity, any adharmic samskars. And that's called Kadarya-shil, the tendency to be involved in something unmeritorious and something not virtuous. And then the other thing is vikshipta chitta, that your chitta, your consciousness, is in a state of distraction. It's not steady. If you have those two things, then you should receive Diksha and be trained in the path of Archan.
Oh.
Because then you'll have to wake up early in the morning, you'll have to wash, you put on tilak, you have to serve the deity and offer things according to mantra, and to follow the sequence you have to concentrate.
Yeah.
So you overcome your the impure life, because you have a purified life. And by doing the Archan every day according to the system, offering 16 articles, you have to concentrate. And gradually, by serving the deity, you overcome the distraction of mind. And then by that, when you engage in hearing and chanting, you can experience dispurities. Because only a purified heart can really hear. Only a purified heart can really chant. And remember, Jiva Goswami Pad says, Pratamam nam nam sravanam antakarna shuddhyatam apeksham. In the beginning, the hearing the holy name depends on purity of the heart. So while the anarthas are there, we don't really hear. We can't really hear and chant. And he said you can't even remember Krishna's name without a Shuddha Antakaran. That means a highly sattvic chitta. So, we can say, I can remember Krishna's name. If you say to me, who's that blue boy with the flute? I remember, it's Krishna. Right? So when our acharyas use the word hearing, chanting and remembering, they use them in a different sense. They don't use them in what is called sadharan rudivriti, the way in which the ordinary people use words. They use the words in vidvat rudivriti. That's the power of the word, which is immediately understandable to the person who's situated in Advai Gyan, in non-dual consciousness.
Yeah.
And this Gaudiya Darshan discusses the difference between sadharan rudivriti and vidvat rudivriti. It's really something important. I'm delighted that you've invited me to speak here today, so that we can share with the audience this. We have to understand scripture according to vidvat rudivriti, according to the interpretation of those who are in non-dual consciousness. And that's so important because Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, he gave the definition of the Gaudiya Mat. He said, in a world which is filled with a sound conveying the agyarudivriti, in other words, the meaning of words as they're understood by those in ignorance, the Gaudiya Mat is the sacred place of the descent of the vidvat rudi meaning of sounds. That's his definition of the Gaudiya Mat.
Wow.
In other words, it's a place where we don't interpret the scripture according to the way that words are used in conventional usage among conditioned souls. There's a special usage which is natural to those who are in non-dual consciousness, and that's Krishna consciousness. Vedanti tat-tattva vidas-tattvam yad jnanam advayam. Krishna is the non-dual absolute truth, and so one cannot know anything about him at all unless one is situated in non-dual consciousness. And that non-dual consciousness is transferred through the Shabda Brahma from the guru to the disciple. You know, that's really hearing. And just take Bhagavad Gita. So we're talking about Parampara.
Yeah.
So in Bhagavad Gita it says, Evam Parampara Praptam. This is received from generation to generation. But he doesn't say anything about the line being broken directly. The Sanskrit just says, but in the course of time, sakale nata mahata, over a great period of time, the science of the knowledge of yoga was lost. And what it means is that, you see, at the end of the Gita, what does Krishna say? The very last conversation with Krishna and Arjuna. Krishna says to Arjuna, Kachid etat srutam parta tvayeka grena chaitasa Kachid agyana sammoha pranastaste dhananjaya. Hey Arjuna, did you listen ekagrena chaitasa, with ekagrata chitta? That means with nishta. Did your chitta come into the state of ekagrata? That is literally the savikalpa samadhi. Were you listening in a samadhi state? That's the initial. That is the savikalpa samadhi or sampragyata samadhi. Were you listening with ekagrata chitta? And because you were listening with ekagrata chitta, was your illusion completely destroyed? In other words, were you transferred from the world of duality to the world of non-duality? That's hearing. And then Arjuna replies to him that Nashto moha smriti labda. My moha, my bewilderment has been destroyed now. Smriti labda, and now I'm doing smaran. That means I'm having a direct internal realization of the absolute truth. So now, if you come back to the subject of parampara, let's say there's a guru and he gives diksha to a disciple, but the disciple has not been purified to that state of ekagrata chitta. And therefore the sound that came was, it was obstructive. That's called mayika vyavadan. There was some mayic material obstructions that impeded the reception of the sound. And so there wasn't a pure spurti of reality in the heart of that disciple. And so when the sound becomes obstructed by mayika vyavadan, some material obstruction due to a lack of surrender, a lack of sacrifice, any type of worldly ego or offenses, then the disciple, instead of getting the pure spurti, the spot dharma, the bursting of the reality of Krishna in his heart, then what does the disciple get? He gets parichchina gyan, pieces of data, information. He gets pieces of information. Krishna's blue, he plays a flute, he lives in Vrindavan, his mother's name's Nishoda. This is information. This is data. And it's limited. It's not actual transcendental knowledge. The transcendental knowledge is seeing. Seeing Krishna, seeing Mother Yashoda, hearing his flute. And so he gets parichchina gyan, limited pieces of information. He gets vikrita gyan, that means distorted knowledge. He gets sankirn gyan, that means not fully, the details of what's being described haven't opened in his heart. It's contracted, and sankir means contracted but also mixed. So it's mixed with just material conceptions. And vivarta-grasta gyan, these are 4 types of knowledge. Parichchina gyan, vikrita gyan, sankirn gyan, and vivarta-grasta gyan, like a total upside down understanding of things. For example, someone may say, the guru may say, Krishna is very beautiful and he danced. The gopis leave their husbands and go to meet with Krishna in the middle of the night. And someone who's really in ignorance will think, well, that's not very moral. I think I'll worship Lord Ram. He's more religious than this Krishna. You must have met people.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Who have that kind of fear. Yeah, it's like completely vivarta grasta gyan. So the Krishna's, let's say you have a parampara and the guru, he's even realized, but he speaks, but the disciple is not surrendered and he doesn't have that direct experience in his heart. Okay, the guru passes away. Now this Diksha disciple, the Diksha disciple, now becomes a guru to the next generation. But what's the quality of his sound? He can't reproduce that divine sound that will give a spurti, the actual realization of the reality to the next generation. And then his disciple doesn't realize anything, but he leaves and then he gives Diksha as well. So that's a Diksha Parampara. Huh? So now where's the absolute infallibility of the unbroken line? You can have a completely unbroken line that completely yogo nashta parantapa, the divine knowledge is not there.
It depends on each of the links and how elevated
where the realization came, and it was in a competent way transferred to the. That's why it's called Shabda Praman. Shabda Praman. Sound is the proof. How do you know that Krishna's God? Well, when you listen, you see him. Oh yeah, he's God. It's not called Shabda Praman because should we think in this way or this way? Well, let's look in the Shastra. The Shastra says this, so that's the proof. It's called Shabda Praman because it gives jatiti pratita, immediate experience to the person whose heart has been prepared. So it's not a choice between the Sri Bhagavat Guru Parampara and the Pancharatrik Parampara.
Yeah.
Don't think that because Srila Bhakti-Siddhanta Thakur gave the Sri Bhagavat Guru Parampara that we're against the Pancharatrik Parampara, but rather the two work in synergy with each other. Yeah. Generally in Kali Yuga, the people, they have Kadarya Shil, they have, immoral activities, and they have Vikshipta Chitta, disturbed mind. So they take Pancharatrik Diksha and they become steady. And then when they hear from a Bhagavat Guru, they immediately realize. And so that synergy between the two systems, the Pancharatrik system and the Bhagavat system, is described right there in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavata. Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kimva Para Ishvara Sadyo Ridya Varudate Atra Kritibis Rusibis Tachanat. In the second verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, there it says, the Srimad Bhagavatam was presented by Mahamuni. We can take to be Vyasadeva, but there's a deeper subject here. That Mahamuni is actually Krishna. Because he's a Muni, that means he's always meditating, doing manan, he's always thinking about Radharani's Mahabhav. So Krishna's Mahamuni. Krishna himself has manifested the Srimad Bhagavatam in this world. Sadyo Ridyavad, immediately, when one desires to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam, Ridyavarudate, Krishna is captured within the heart. That means you get Prem. You realize Krishna and get Prem. Krishna's only captured and can't leave you when love is awakened. So actually hearing Srimad Bhagavatam awakens love in the heart, which controls Krishna. But for whom? It happens immediately, but for whom? Kriti B. Kriti B means by Kriti, by the accomplished persons. Those persons who've been refined. So that refers to, in the 11th canto, Krishna tells to Uddhav that Labdwa Nugara Acharyat Tena Sandashit Agamaha Mahapurusham Abhyachen Murtyabi Mata Apmanaha. The meaning is that person who has attained the anugraha, the mercy of the Acharya, Tena Sandashika Agama, that means he's received Diksha and been trained in Archan, the Pancharatrik system. Mahapurusham Abhyachen, and he's engaged in Archan according to the Abhiman. So that's really where the importance of Diksha, because through the Gopal mantra, it will happen spontaneously, or Guru may give shiksha also in the mantra and instruct the disciple. What is that disciple's Vishesh Sambandha Gyan, his particular relationship with Krishna? And so through the Gopal mantra, you become established in what your relationship is. Are you love Krishna like a parent, or like a friend, or like a beloved, like a maidservant of Radhika, like that? That realization of Sambandha Gyan comes from the Gopal mantra. And then when we chant the Hare Krishna mantra with Sambandha Gyan, then it becomes Sankirtan. Sankirtan means kirtan with Sambandha Gyan. Without the Sambandha Gyan, our chanting will not become pure. We'll chant Namabhas at the most. So that's what the Diksha process is, that it awakens our relation with Krishna. So here, Sadyo Ridyava Rudate Kritibi Susrushabis Tachanat. When Kritibi, by the persons who've been refined by the Pancharatrik system, when they've overcome their disturbed mind and their immoral behavior, they become purified. Then when they hear Srimad Bhagavatam, they immediately have realization and the love starts to rise up in the heart. Like this. So this is the synergy between the two systems.
So what's the criticism then if there's a synergetic relationship between both, that we need both? So then,
well,
isn't that what...
everyone doesn't need both. Because let's say some very highly qualified persons, they're born with complete concentration from the previous life.
So they don't need
that person
the
wouldn't need Pancharatrik Diksha. That's why Jiva Goswami said, in the opinion of the Bhagavat, the Archan Marg isn't necessary. But if you have these two things, then you should do the Archan Marg, and the two will work together.
Right.
Like this. So now I just want to retrace a little bit and look at the evidence for the two types of gurus. So in Bhakti Sandarbha, Jiva Goswami speaks about how one can overcome all anarthas by serving two types of gurus. And one of them is called he says mantra upadestrinam, by those gurus who give mantra. And the other he calls it the Shastra Artha Upadestrinam, by the gurus who don't give mantra, but they instruct you in the meaning of the Shastra, particularly in our tradition, Srimad Bhagavatam.
Right.
So again, he's showing how one can go through anartha nivritti and attain perfection from two types of gurus. So we've discussed Tattva Sandarbha, we've discussed evidences from Bhakti Sandarbha. Now I want to come to Paramatma Sandarbha, because that is the really very, very clear description. In the Paramatma Sandarbha, there, Srila Jiva Goswami is describing a beautiful verse from the very end of Srimad Bhagavatam, from the 12th canto. Kasma yena vibhasitoyam atulo jnana pradipa pura tadrupena chanaradaya munaye krishnaya tadrupina yogindraya tadatmanata bhagavat rataya karunyatas tat shuddham vimalam vishokram amritam satyam param dhimahi. He said, I meditate upon that supreme truth, which is Krishna, who first imparted, he manifested this eternal Srimad Bhagavatam. Because Bhagavatam is eternal, it just becomes, it's unmanifest or it's manifest. Krishna caused the eternal Srimad Bhagavatam to manifest to Lord Brahma. Right?
Yeah.
And we know that Brahma instructed Narad, Narad instructed Vyas, Vyas instructed Shukadev, like that. But the speciality of this verse is, he says, Tadrupena cha Naradaya. He says that then Krishna enters into Lord Brahma. And Krishna, in the form of Lord Brahma, instructed Narad. Tadrupena cha Naradaya. And then Krishna entered into Narad. And Krishna instructed the Vyasadev. Krishnaya Tadrupina. Then Krishna entered into Vyasadev and instructed Shukadev Goswami. Then Tadatmanata Bhagavat Rataya Karunyatas. Then Krishna entered into Shukadev Goswami and instructed Parikshit Maharaj. And Sutta Goswami is speaking this verse. He doesn't mention himself, but the dwani, or the implication of it is, but he's being humble, is that right now I'm speaking Srimad Bhagavatam. So you should understand, you should infer from this description that right now Krishna's entered into me, and it's Krishna speaking to you. And giving Sutta Goswami speaking to Shaunaka Rishi and all the sages. That's the implication here. And so this is the actual meaning of the Bhagavat Guru Parampara. That the speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam in every generation is none other than Krishna himself. That's why it's called the Bhagavat Guru Parampara. Because Bhagavan himself reveals himself in every generation. You know, the Upanishads say, Tasyaishapmi vivrinute tanam swam. Only the Supreme Lord can reveal his own form. And so this is how the Bhagavatam appears, Krishna himself. And so Jiva Goswami explains this in Paramatma Sandarbha. Again and again it said, Tadrupena, Tadrupena, Tad Atmanata. Like that. Krishna is appearing again and again in the form of the Bhagavat Guru and giving the knowledge to the next generation. And so Srila Srila Jiva Goswami, he said, this is the glory of the Bhagavat Guru. So those who say, that, what's this Bhagavat Guru Parampara? There's no such thing as Bhagavat Guru. You didn't read Jiva Goswami's Paramatma Sandarbha? Why are you making an exhibition of your ignorance? Right? It's there so many times, Tattva Sandarbha and Bhakti Sandarbha. Now we're coming to the Paramatma Sandarbha. And there, Jiva Goswami, he gives the history of the past history of Bhagavat Guru Parampara. He said, that's not the only Bhagavat Guru Parampara, that description. He said, but there's another Bhagavat Guru Parampara which is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, but it's not mentioned here because the revelation of the other Bhagavat Guru Parampara is included in this Bhagavat Guru Parampara, Krishna to Brahma, to Narad, to Vyasa, to Shukadeva, and so on. And you can see that Vyasa doesn't give Diksha to Shukadeva Goswami. Yam pravyajantam anupaitam apaitu krityam. Anupeta Krityam means Shukadeva Goswami didn't undergo any purificatory sanskars like the Upanayan sanskar, receiving the sacred thread and all of these things. So Shukadeva Goswami doesn't give Diksha to Parikshit Maharaj. Parikshit Maharaj, Sutta Goswami was also in the audience there. Sutta Goswami doesn't give Diksha to Shaunaka and the Rishis. Like this. So this is the flow of knowledge. Because these persons are qualified, they don't have Vikshipta Chitta. They're just like Krishna says to Arjuna, did you listen with a steady mind? And just by hearing with a steady mind, you actually have the experience of Shravan.
Yeah.
The spurti, the bursting of the reality into the consciousness. Now, in regard to the other Guru Parampara, the other Bhagavat Guru Parampara, which is in the Bhagavatam, because right now we're discussing, well, where's the evidence for this concept?
Yes.
People say that this is a creation, it's a fantasy of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Swami Thakur. But no, this is a profound tradition, and I might add that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's emphasis is on this tradition more than the Pancharatric side of things. And we'll discuss that in detail later, how Mahaprabhu put more emphasis on that side. So now we're coming to, Jiva Goswami said, look at the third canto. In the third canto, in the very first verse of the third canto, Sridhar Swami, he says, Dveda hi Srimad Bhagavata Sampradaya Pravritihi. The Srimad Bhagavat Sampradaya, he's saying here the Bhagavat Sampradaya. It has two forms. And one is the Ekata, Sanksheptata Sri Narayan Brahma Narad Adi. So that's the one we've already discussed, Krishna to Brahma to Narad.
Yeah.
And then he says, Anyatas Vistarataha Shesha Sanat Kumar Sankyayan Adi Dwarena, which means there's another line, it comes from Sankarshan. So Sankarshan instructs Sanat Kumar instructs Sankyayan Muni. Sankyayan Muni has two main disciples, one is Parashara and the other is Brihaspati. So coming from Sankyayan to Brihaspati, his disciple is Uddhav. So in the third canto, especially third canto, chapter 8, also this parampara is given because you have the situation of Krishna has left this world. And Krishna has told Uddhav, you have to stay. All the Yadus have gone. Uddhav is also a Yadu, but you have to stay. Krishna said, you have to stay. And I want you should go to Badrik Ashram and meet with the sages there and speak Srimad Bhagavatam to them. But on the way, you'll meet with Vidura. So in the third canto, you have this Vidura's traveling, because he was on the pretext of being insulted by Duryodhana. It wasn't really the insult of Duryodhana, but on the pretext of the insults of Duryodhana, he leaves everything and he goes on Tirtha Yatra. Yeah. Right? So during that time, the Yadu dynasty disappeared from the world. But he's not in touch with anyone, so he doesn't know. So when he meets Uddhav, it's a very pathetic scene. And Vidura says to Uddhav, oh, how is Krishna? And how are the Yadavas? And Uddhav is burning in separation. And he just loses consciousness. And he goes into a trance. And then in Srimad Bhagavatam it says, Shanaka Bhagaval Lokan Nilokam Puna Agataha Vimridja Netre Viduran Pricha Uddhava Utsmayan. It said, slowly, Uddhav returned, Bhagaval Lokan, Rilokam Puna Agata. He returned from the planet of Krishna. He returned from Krishna Lok back to the world of human beings. In other words, when he went into trance, He was feeling so much separation from Krishna. He went into trance and he saw himself with Krishna in the eternal Dwarka face to face. And then he comes back, Shanaka, means slowly, he comes out of his trance back into external consciousness. Vimridja netra, and he's wiping the tears from his eyes. Pritya, with great priti, with great love. Uddhava utsmayan, Uddhav is smiling, and he addresses Vidura. So the question comes, why is he smiling and speaking with such affection for Vidura? And the reason is that when in his separation he went into samadhi and found himself with Krishna in the spiritual world, after some time Krishna said, "Oh, Uddhav, Vidura is there on earth and he's asking you a question. You should reply to him." And so Uddhav, by Krishna's mercy, he came out from his trance and he's wiping away his tears and smiling at the same time that Krishna loves you so much. To Uddhav, to Vidura, right? Then Vidura is crying because Uddhav tells him what has happened. And Vidura is crying uncontrollably because Krishna, for whom he has so much love, Krishna came to Vidura's house. He didn't go to take the fancy feast at Duryodhana's place. He came and ate the banana peel of Vidurani, Vidura's wife. So that very Krishna, just before leaving this world, he told Uddhav, go and meet with Vidura. So it means Krishna remembered him just before leaving this world. And only thinking that, his heart was just breaking. Krishna remembered me at the last moment, and he was feeling so much separation.
Wow.
And then of course, the story, because it's important in spiritual life to observe Vaishnava etiquette. Right. Srila Prabhupada describes that Uddhav told Vidura, Maitreya is nearby, and he's older, he's senior, you should go. He gives some instruction, he said you should go and hear from Maitreya. And so this Prabhupada also comments that one should not do the Maryada Vyatikram. One should not transgress the Vaishnava etiquette of trying to usurp the service opportunities and teaching in the presence of teachers who are more advanced and more realized and senior.
Right.
And in one sense, Uddhav actually is on a higher level, right? But according to the Maryada of the situation, Maitreya is his senior and he's deferring to him. And so it's very beautiful. So the Parampara goes, let's just recap that.
Yeah.
It goes Sankarshan to Sanat Kumar to Sankyan Muni. Sankyan Muni has two disciples. One is Brihaspati and his disciple is Uddhav. And the other is Parasara. And Parasara's disciple is Maitreya. And then Vidura becomes his disciple. So the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is describing, this is the Bhagavat Sampradaya. It's right there in Jiva Goswami saying in Paramatma Sandarbha, there are two examples in the Bhagavatam of the Bhagavat Guru Parampara.
Wow.
And one is the one that we're in. And this is the other one whose history is given in the third canto. And when you go to the third canto and you read the commentary of Sridhar Swami, who Mahaprabhu said, if you don't accept Sridhar Swami, then you're a prostitute. Right? He said that too, Vallabhacharya in Puri. You don't accept the Swami, because it also means husband, then you're a Vaishya, you're a prostitute.
Right.
So we all, though Sridhar Swami is actually in the Vishnu Swami Sampradaya, we revere him. Yeah. We have the utmost reverence for his conclusion. And he says this is the Bhagavat, the Bhagavat Sampradaya, two Bhagavat Sampradayas are described in Srimad Bhagavatam. But let's come to the essence here. The essence here is that in each generation, Krishna enters and reveals himself. He enters into that guru and reveals himself to the next generation. So we see the example of the Bhagavat Guru Parampara, that Uddhav was in separation. He's seeing Krishna, and then he's coming out of his trance and he's describing what he's seen. So the person who's hearing with a pure heart, he will see the same thing. That's the Gaudiya that's why it's called Gaudiya Darshan. Yeah. The seeing through the ears, through Tekshitapat. Yeah. So how can that parampara be inferior anyway to a marg where Archan, Diksha is part of Archan marg, one of the angas of Archan. Yeah. So how can it be inferior to that in any way? That the guru who's seeing Krishna directly in his trance is then transferring and putting the disciple into a trance. So the Bhagavat Guru Parampara is superior in every respect, and its focus is on Raga Marg. So Archan It may be performed in Raga Marg if someone has some inclination toward that, but it's not essential. And the beauty of the Bhagavad Parampara is this. Let's say there's a line. It's a Pancharatric Guru Parampara. Each guru is qualified to a point, but then one generation is not qualified, and the Shabda Brahma isn't transferred. And now the Parampara is still going on, but some Apasiddhanta will come. Actually, all the 13 Apasampradayas only arise from the incomplete reception of the Spot Dharma, of the revelatory power of transcendental sound. That's the cause of every whenever a sampradaya kind of veers off in the wrong direction, it's because the sound wasn't received in its pristine purity and bestowing that direct experience. So when that happens, when, let's say, a Diksha line becomes defunct, it can be revived again. If some guru in that line or some disciple in that line just associates with the Mahabhagavat Vaishnavas and hears from them, and it can be revived, and then he can have a Diksha disciple, but it can really be an authentic line again as well. So in this way, if historically something becomes lacking in a Diksha line, then the Bhagavad Guru Parampara is still going on, and it can even revive a line that became defunct.
Can the vice versa also be said? Like if there's something that gets defunct in the
the Bhagavad Parampara, if you're not a Bhagavat, then you're not in the Bhagavad Parampara.
I see.
But I understand what you mean. If, let's say, someone doesn't have a Diksha relationship with a Vaishnava, let's say the Diksha Guru didn't impart to him the divine knowledge, so he goes to someone in a Bhagavat line but who's not really qualified, then it's not really a bona fide Bhagavat line like that. So, yeah. So these are the evidences from Srimad Bhagavatam. But there's always a qualified person in this world. Always. And we see that when Vidura then, he goes to meet with, in the third canto again, he goes to meet with Maitreya, and he's glorifying Maitreya, and Vidura prays to him, to his Bhagavat Guru. Janasya Krishnad Vimukasya Daivad Adharma Shilasya Sudukitasya Anugrayena Charanti Nunam Bhutani Bhavyani Janardanasya. And this means that great personalities who are very near and dear to the Supreme Lord are wandering throughout this world in order to awaken the Krishna consciousness of the living entities who are vimukh, who are averse to the subordination of God. Those who are averse to Krishna's service, they're vimukh. Janasya Krishnad Vimukasya Daivat Adharma Shilasya. So they do adharma. But Charanti Nunam, the dear associates of Janardhan and Shri Krishna, they're wandering through this world. So Charanti means they're wandering. It's in the present tense. And the significance of the present tense is that there's always some Mahabhagavat Vaishnava in this world somewhere. Wondering. So we should never think that the Bhagavat Guru Parampara can end. A Pancharatric Parampara could become defunct, but the Bhagavat Guru Parampara will go on forever. And so that comes up in that discussion of the other Bhagavat Sampradaya, which is given as an example in Srimad Bhagavatam.
You were saying about Mahaprabhu's emphasis on the Bhagavat.
Yeah. This is very fascinating. This is so fascinating because we see that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, my Gurudev used to say, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu received Diksha from his Guru, Srila Ishvara Puri Pad. He was Trunada Pisuni Chena, more humble than a blade of grass. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he had lobe, he had greed. And he even took sannyas and gave up the association of all his beloved associates in Navadvip out of his intense greed to realize Radha Bhav. But even doing all of these things, it was still not enough. So when he was in Puri and he heard that there was a Braj-Rasik Vaishnava of the highest caliber named Ramananda Roy, right? So at that time, on the pretext of saying, I'm going to South India to search my brother Vishwarup, who had taken sannyas years before, that was just a pretext. He was actually searching out the association of Ramananda Roy. Because he wanted to hear Harikatha, Bhagavad Katha from Ramananda Roy. So then Mahaprabhu, he finds that rasic. Mahaprabhu is teaching by his own example.
Yeah.
Apani karimu bhakta bhava angikari, apani achari bhakti shikamu sabari. And Krishna said, I will appear in the mood of a devotee as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and I'll teach the path of bhakti to everyone by my own example.
Yeah.
Right? So he had so many qualifications, but still his three desires, the reasons why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in this world, they had not been fulfilled yet. So he was searching out a Rasik Vaishnava who had the mood, the same mood that he wanted to realize. So Lalita Sakhi Guna Ramita Vishakhi.
Yeah.
Here the word Lalita Sakhi means Radhika. The friend of Radhika is the friend of Lalita, and her gun, Ramita Vishakhi, are reflected in Vishaka. You see, Lalita is 27 days older than Radhika, but Radhika and Vishaka are born on the same day at the same moment in the same nakshatra. And so just as the Lalita is a prakara, very sharply spoken, she's pragalba, she's a very bold Sakhi. But Radhika, she's not like a mugdha. She's not a naive heroine. She's somewhere in the middle between the naive heroine and the experienced aggressive heroine. That's called the Madhya, Madhya Naika. So that's Radhika's mood. She's a Madhya. And so Vishaka also has that Madhya temperament as well. So the teaching is Sajatayashe snigde sadhu sangha swatobare. Sadhu sangha means associating with the sadhu who is vare. That means significantly more advanced than ourselves. Who is snigda, affectionate to us. That means that we've served them in such a way that they've made a sankalpa in their heart. You will be my kripapatra. I want to fill you with all the mercy. So that's snigda, the affection. And the third qualification of sadhu sangha is sajataya she snigde. So sajatya means of the same type, and arshai means the innermost region of the heart. So let's say if you want to realize madhurya rasa, you have to find a person who has realized madhurya rasa, of the same category, and associate with them. Right. So Mahaprabhu is having this pastime of going to the incarnation of Vishaka, because her mood is the mood which is so closest to the mood he wants to realize, Radhika's mood. So he goes there, and Rup Shiksha is Mahaprabhu teaching Rupa Goswami. Sanatan Shiksha is Mahaprabhu teaching Sanatan Goswami. Ramananda Samvad is
him learning from Ramananda.
Yes, exactly. So in the opening verse, the Mangala Charanam, if you like, of that chapter 8 of the Madhya Lila, it begins with a verse which is really a sutra for the whole discussion. It gives an overview, the essence of the whole chapter.
Yeah.
Sancharya Rama bheda-bhakta meghe swabhakti siddhanta chayamritani. What is that? Gorabdhe amuna vitirnais tadzgyatva ratnalayatam prayati. So the meaning is that Ramananda is like a cloud. Sancharya Rama bheda-bhakta meghe. And Mahaprabhu is like the ocean. So the cloud comes from the ocean. So Mahaprabhu is Krishna, the Supreme Lord. And all the gopis are his Shaktis that will come from him. So Ramananda has come from Mahaprabhu. So just as a primitive person might not know that the cloud actually comes from the ocean because it's invisible. So an ordinary person doesn't understand this Ramananda Rai is just not like the governor of Raja Mahendri. He's actually the Shakti of Mahaprabhu himself. So that relationship is given.
Yeah.
And then when Ramananda Rai speaks Harikatha, Swabhakti Siddhanta Chayamritani, the Siddhanta of Bhakti is the rain coming from the cloud of Ramananda Rai into the ocean. And then what happens? Gorabdi Eta, this Mahaprabhu, Amuna Vitirnais Tadzgyatva Ratnalayatam, the ocean becomes Ratnalay, filled with jewels. So the idea here is that there's a poetic metaphor that if rain falls at the time of a stellar constellation, the Swati Nakshatra, it says that rain that falls at the time of the Swati Nakshatra, when it goes into the ocean, it produces jewels in the ocean. And so the auspicious moment of the meeting of Ramananda Rai and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was like that moment of Swati Nakshatra. Ramananda Rai is the cloud, Mahaprabhu is the ocean, the Qatar is the rain, and then Mahaprabhu had realizations that he never had before. That's the appearance of the jewels. Wow. He began to realize Radhabhav, the reason why he came to this world.
After the
manifested
Ramananda.
in his heart. Yeah, this is the meaning of it. So Mahaprabhu is giving us the example that it was actually his Bhagavat Guru, hearing the Bhagavatam, hearing the Rasakatha from Ramananda Rai, which fulfilled the desires for which it really appeared in this world.
Wow.
Now, you're asking about the emphasis. Let's move on to the next generation. We're Gaudiya, that means we're the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But on what basis are we in the Parampara of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? On what basis? Did Mahaprabhu give Pancharatric Diksha to anyone?
Not that I know of.
No, he didn't give Diksha to anyone. That's why I'm saying Chaitanya Mahaprabhu put the emphasis on the Bhagavat Parampara by not giving Diksha to anyone. He enlightened so many persons. But by Kirtan and Harikatha, that's the Bhagavat mark.
But don't they say something like Rupa Goswami was a disciple of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu?
No, he didn't give Diksha to Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami's Diksha was from Sanatana Goswami.
Right.
Yeah. And then, so now Rupa Goswami, Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapit, he's the main conduit of Mahaprabhu's mercy in this world. And who do we follow? Rupa and Raghunath. Did Rupa give Diksha to Raghunath? No. Right? So then we come to Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Did Raghunath Das Goswami give Diksha to Krishnadas Kaviraj? There's a line in Vrindavan that say he received Diksha from Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. But in Chaitanya Charitamrita itself, it says the H.I. Shiksha Guru, H.I. Gosai, Shiksha Guru Ke Ama. These 6 Goswamis, they're my Shiksha Gurus. So he personally says that they're all his Shiksha Gurus. He doesn't say that any one of them is his Diksha Guru. Like this. Rupa Goswami. If we're Rupa Nuga, Gaudiyas have the Abhiman. They're proud to, not of themselves, but proud to be followers of Rupa Goswami because he's so wonderful. They consider, but on what basis do we consider ourselves to be Rupa Nuga? To whom did Rupa Goswami give Diksha? Only one person, Jiva Goswami. But our ideal is Rupa Raghunatha Pode Hoibe Akuti. So Jiva Goswami is great, of course, and he's given Diksha to Jiva Goswami, one person. But we can't say that his emphasis was on the Pancharatric system if he only had one disciple.
Right.
You see? And so, for those who are... so all those examples are there from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And from the beginning of the universe with Brahma and Narad and Shuka and Parikshit Maharaj and Sutta Goswami and so on. And Vishwanath Chaudhuri Thakur in his commentary on the 3rd verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, Nigama kalpataro galitam palam Shukamakadamrita drava samyatam Pibata Bhagavatam rasamalayam Muhuraho rasika bhuvi bhavakaha. In the commentary, Vishwanath Chaudhuri Thakur said this is a Guru Parampara. The line of Sutta Goswami. So Sutta Goswami doesn't receive Diksha from Shukadev, and Sutta Goswami doesn't give Diksha to Shanak, Shaunika Rishi, and the Shaunika and the Rishis. But Vishwanath Thakur in his commentary said this is a Guru Parampara. But what type of Guru Parampara? It's a Guru Parampara where the sweet juice of the ripened fruit of the Vedic literatures is the liquid, and it's dripping down from generation to generation to generation. Because when a pure devotee speaks Rasakatha and a surrendered disciple is listening, then something happens called Sadarnikaran. Sadaranyam tabevuktam bhavanam purva suribihi. Rupa Goswami Pad describes in Bhaktarasamrita Sindhu that rasa has a special, inconceivable, supernatural quality that it can do sadarnikaran. That means it generalizes. In other words, let's say a Rasik Vaishnava is describing a very beautiful pastime of Radha and Krishna, and some devotee was serving Radha and Krishna. When a devotee in the audience is absorbed in that, he focuses on that person who's serving Radha and Krishna and becomes so absorbed that he cannot distinguish whether between himself and the person in the Leela. And then the ras experienced by that person in the Leela, in the actual Nitya Leela, actually overflows. It becomes generalized with those who are hearing, and they experience that rasa through hearing. And that's what's being described in the 3rd verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, how the juice descends through the sadarnikaram, the generalization of rasa. So if this divine rasa, which is the goal of all of our practice, is transferred from one person to another, what could ever be lacking in such a parampara?
Wow. There's so much we can talk about, but we're running out of time. Well, we went 2 hours and 15 minutes. Did you want to kind of conclude with something as far as the points you're making?
Sure. One concluding point is that all the personalities in our Sri Bhagavat Guru Parampara, they have their Pancharatrik gurus.
Yes.
Right? So, for example, Srila Gokishore Das Babaji Maharaj, he doesn't have Diksha from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is his Bhagavat Guru.
Yeah.
But he has Diksha. He had Diksha. Some persons say that his Diksha was from Nanda Kishore Goswami of the line of Advaitacharya in Shantipur. But Akinchan Krishna Das Babaji Maharaj, the Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur disciple, he said that actually his Diksha was from one Nimai Chand Goswami in the line of Janava Thakurani. Then you have Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He doesn't have Diksha from Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. His Diksha Guru was Vipina Bihari Goswami.
Yeah.
Right? So that's in the Janava Paribar also, like that. Then Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, he doesn't have Diksha from Baladeva Vibhushan Prabhu, but his Diksha was from Jagadananda Goswami, who's in the Nityananda family, who are in charge of the Sri part of Shringarvat in Vrindavan. Shringarvat in Vrindavan.
Yeah.
So the family, it's there. In their previous generations, there was a Jagadananda Goswami. And that was the Diksha Guru of Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. But the main person in his life was actually Madhusudan Das Babaji, the great Siddha Madhusudan Das Babaji of Suryakund. And his Diksha Guru was named Uddhav Das. His Diksha Guru was named Udar Das, and his Diksha Guru was Baladeva Vibhushan. And so those are the gaps which are not mentioned in the Bhagavad Guru Parampara of the Diksha line connection with Baladeva Vibhushan.
Yeah.
Now Baladeva Vibhushan, he doesn't have Diksha from Vishwanath Thakur.
Yeah.
It's a Shiksha relationship. It's a Bhagavad Guru relation. But his Diksha was from Radha Damodar Goswami, who's in the line of the Shamananda Paribar, like that. And so when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, he gave the Bhagavad Guru Parampara. Actually, he was told to do this by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And so the question comes, what was the necessity of it? All these Diksha lines were going on. What was the necessity of emphasizing in the world the ancient tradition of the Bhagavat Sampradaya? It's a very critical question.
Yeah.
Why did he do that?
Yeah.
So the answer is this, that because sometimes the lines become, the Shabda Brahma isn't transferred in its fullness. And then sometimes as Acharya is not as weighty or as realized as his forefathers, but they may write some books and some apasiddhanta may come into those books. And then what happens, let's say the line goes on and it gets revived again by association with high-class Vaishnavas. And now the Vaishnavas in that line, they have to respect all of their previous acharyas, right? But you've got this problem that you've got some previous acharyas who wrote some books which had apasiddhanta in them. And that's what some chaos was happening at the time of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, because I'm just giving an example. It was in other places as well. But let's say in the line of Nityananda, the Nityananda Bunks, there were books like Nityananda Bunks Bistar. There were books like Banksi Shiksha. There was Jayananda's Chaitanya Mangal. There was, which other books they're called? They're called Apagrantas. There was, the Nityananda Bunks Vistar. These different books, they'd introduced apasiddhanta. And so now you have this problem. On the one hand, we have to respect all of our previous acharyas, but that would included in that would mean we'd have to respect their writings as well. But these writings are polluting the sampradaya. So what do you do? The Gaudiya line was being polluted because these apagrantas were being considered on a similar level to the authentic literatures of the six Goswamis, Vishwanath Thakur and others. And so it was necessary to purify the sampradaya, to trace out the pure current of the Rupanuga conception.
Oh.
And so it's not being rude, it's just a polite way to kind of marginalize the personalities who would introduce some scriptures which were not really helpful for the development of the sampradaya. So he did it to politely marginalize certain persons who into the margins of history and emphasize on the pure current.
That's why there's gaps, you can say. Not gaps, but like that's why they're not, all the connections are not Diksha connections. Right.
Because even where there are gaps in our line, there, let's say from Vishwanath Thakur to Narottam Das Thakur. So Vishwanath Thakur, his guru, you sing Samsara Dava Nalalita Loka every day. That song was written to his guru, Radharaman Chakravarti.
Wow.
Right? So, and then his guru was actually Radharaman Chakravarti's father, Krishna Charan Chakravarti. And really, Vishwanath Thakur approached Krishna Charan Chakravarti for initiation. But Krishna Charan Chakravarti said, I'm really old and I won't be able to instruct you for long enough. It's a very poignant point. I won't be able to instruct you for... So you take Diksha from his son, Radharaman Chakravarti, because he will be in the world longer and he can give you guidance for longer. Like that. So he accepted Krishna Charan Chakravarti as like his Bhagavat guru and took Diksha from Radharaman Chakravarti, and then he left, and then he was further under the guidance of him. So then Krishna Charan Chakravarti was the disciple of Ganganarayan Chakravarti, and he was the disciple of Narottam Das Thakur. So even where the gaps are, the people are there. But those great personalities whom we revere, they are there, but they did not make such a huge literary contribution as, let's say, Vishwanath Thakur and Narottam Das Thakur. So it's not that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur wanted to give us a parampara that has gaps, or there's, no one has diksha from anyone else or anything. He just gave the main personalities who gave the main important scriptures which are essential for our spiritual life. Yeah. And if we'll follow that, we'll be successful. And so if someone comes and says, no parampara, there's no such thing as the Bhagavat Guru parampara, then all the Shastric evidence is there to prove it. The emphasis is there in the actual lived life and pastimes of our acharyas. Yeah. And we're not denying the Diksha Parampara. That's also wonderful. They work in synergy. And every member of the Parampara has his Diksha Parampara as well. Yeah. And there aren't any gaps. Yes. So there you have it. Our line is a perfect and beautiful line transmitting the rare gift that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for clarifying all of that. I think this will help a lot of devotees from when you first started saying that sometimes it can, if someone hears something or sees something, it feels like the rug was pulled under them and they've...
Yes. It's devastating when a person thinks that this parampara is just like the straight line and everyone knew each other and everyone was initiated. Yeah. And then they find out that they're not. And they think those who are really inimical to our line, that they're right. Yeah. And that they might feel that they've been deceived even. Right. That happens.
Yes.
And then prematurely they even leave the line and go to another line before they've made... And really, even if you're trying to make a thorough investigation, you have to hear from someone who understands the Sampradayic Tattva. Yeah. And then everything is clear, no doubt left. Right. And then we say, as I say, we're not doing apologetics on behalf of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, because there's nothing to apologize about. But those who are casting aspersions in his direction, they're at fault. They have to be corrected. They're displaying their own ignorance of Siddhanta and history also.
Would you also say that you can be initiated in the Bhagavat Guru Parampara line or the Diksha line, but ultimately it's up to your own Vaishnava behavior and your efforts in Krishna consciousness that make that be able to be effective in your life, because it's not just about being initiated in a certain line and I don't have to do anything. It's about you doing stuff.
There are two things, right? Everyone's heard of the Sadguru. The Sadguru, that means the authentic guru.
Yeah.
But there's also the Satshishya,
Right.
the authentic disciple.
Yes.
So the current of divine love and realization of the eternal service of Radha and Krishna in the Nikunjas of Vrindavan is only transmitted from the Sadguru to the Satshishya. If the disciple is not a Satshishya, he doesn't have the qualities of the disciple, he doesn't have the Bruyusnigdasya Sisyasya, he's not completely malleable, he's not completely subordinate and submissive to the will of his guru, to give up his ego and simply become an instrument and become make himself, my Gurudev used to say, you have to become empty, like a flute.
Right.
If the bamboo is empty, then a tune can be played, a melody can come, which will melt your heart.
Yeah.
But if there's anything blocking, then there'll be no melody.
Right.
So we have to become empty like Krishna's flute and let only the desire of the Sri Guru fill us and just become like a puppet, an instrument for the desire of Guru in this world. Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam, to render Manobishta Seva, fulfilling the innermost desire, heart's desire of the Guru. And then there's success in the devotee's life. And that leads us just one last point.
Sure.
Yes. This is a beautiful lecture, Gaudiya Darshan. We really didn't touch. Perhaps on another time we can discuss really.
We have to come back. You have to come back.
Vidvat Rudhi? I wrote an article once. It was called Vidvat Rudhi, the most important word you've never heard. And it's really, that's the definition of the Gaudiya Math, and by extension ISKCON, which is the extension of Prabhupada's mission. And what is that? So we could go into that on another day.
Yeah.
But you've brought up the topic of the Satshishya. The disciple has to be authentic. So this came out at the beginning of the year-long celebration, whatever, last April.
Yeah.
And then this when it came to the actual 150th birthday of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, I thought, I've got nothing to give him on his birthday. Right? So then, let me translate another book. So then, you can show that to your audience. I don't know the camera angles here. So then we translated this book. It's also never been translated before.
Vedic Wisdom Tales.
Vedic Wisdom Tales. So that people may be familiar with this book, Upakyan Upadesh, of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, many short stories, little anecdotes about the scholar and the boatman and the judge who ate the jackfruit and all these, little stories. So, and there are many stories in there. They're actually from the Niti Shastra, like Panchatantra or Hitupadesh.
Yeah.
And Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur takes the worldly Niti Shastra, the worldly texts on ethics, and he shows how they can be useful in our spiritual life.
Yeah.
So, but what is not so well known is that Upakyan Upadesh, or the Upakyan, that means the stories that give a teaching, Upadesh. That was part one, but there's a part two, which had never been translated, the Dvitiya Kanda. And that was not drawing from the Lokik Niti Shastra, the worldly books of ethics, but it was only Paralokik Shastra. In other words, the stories that Prabhupada often used to tell from the Katha Upanishad, from the Kena Upanishad, from the Chandogya Upanishad, from Mahabharata, all the main Upakyans of Srimad Bhagavatam, Prahlad, Dhruva, Ambarish Maharaj, the Rantidev, Bharat Maharaj, all these stories, and from Mahabharata, and some more medieval times from Prem Vilas as well. And so all of these stories, they're retold here in brief. There are 34 stories told in brief by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur. But then at the end, he extracts the meaning in the way that only a Mahabhagat can extract the meaning.
Wow.
So it's not like let us say, a kind of cliched meaning that you'd commonly hear, but something really profound and that really strikes you and makes an impression. He extracts from each story. Look, I'll give it just a brief example.
Sure.
He tells the story of Bharat Maharaj and Rantidev together, side by side. Why? Because Bharat Maharaj, he was in the forest and he was doing his bhajan, intense, and he became very advanced. He had tears of, he attained rati and tears of love were flowing from his eyes. But somehow he became attached to a deer, and we know what happened next. And he, in his next life, he became a deer. So he lost his way somewhat. Of course, he was a special person. It's an example to teach us, really. But Rantidev was trying to help everyone. He was feeding everyone Mahaprasadam. He was preaching. His whole life was dedicated to uplifting others. And then one day, he'd been fasting for 48 days, and he was just about to eat, and then guests kept arriving, and he keeps giving away his food to the guests until there's nothing left except for a glass of water. And then the Chandala comes, complete outcast person, and he's thirsty, and he gives his glass of water away, and that's it.
Yeah.
And now he has no food. And he says, well, just by giving away my last food to this Chandala, I've become completely free from all duality, from all illusion. And then it turns out all these guests manifest their form, and it was all different demigods.
Right.
Right? And all the demigods are coming, they want to give him a benediction. And what does he do? He just bows down to them, because he doesn't want anything. So Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, then he compares the two stories. And he says, just see, the full power of Maya, in other words, all the gifts of heaven, were offered to Rantidev, and he just gave pranam. Whereas Bharat Maharaj, just a deer in the forest, and he became attached. He fell from the path. Why? Because there are two things here. One, Bharat Maharaj was alone, he didn't have sadhu sangha. If he had sadhu sangha, when some disturbance came to his consciousness, the words of the sadhu could have removed it.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that Rantidev was protected because he never thought, he wasn't doing sadhan for himself. Bharat Maharaj was doing sadhan, his own sadhan for himself. Rantidev was doing his sadhan, but he was also thinking about the upliftment of the whole society. By preaching and distributing Mahaprasada and everything.
Yeah.
And so Mahaprabhu said this, that Yari Dekitai Kara Krishna Upadesh, when he was leaving the house of the Brahmin in South India, the Brahmin said, take me with you. Yeah. Mahaprabhu said, no, stay here. But he said, Yari Dekitai Kara Krishna Upadesh, Amara Gya Guru Hanitaridesh. Everyone you meet, you tell them about Krishna.
Yeah.
And then he said, Kabo na badibe tomar vishaya taranga pune apit eitai pabimora sangha. If you are always telling others about Krishna, then I promise you this, that the waves of sense gratification will never overpower you. And in the future, you will have my association again. And of course, Mahaprabhu, he did historically go back, but it means that Mahaprabhu appeared to him.
Right.
Gave him vision like that. So here, the importance of being engaged in the preaching mission of our acharyas is shown, that it gives a special mercy and a special protection. So we should be in sadhu sangha, we should do our sadhan, but we should also try to help others. And then even if all the pleasures of heaven are placed before us, they'll not affect us. So this is just an example how Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, he takes the stories which are well known and he just extracts these beautiful dimensions which are really, really go deeply into the heart. And also, what I've done is at the end of the book, I've given a commentary. And in the commentary, we present, just to help the readers integrate all the stories, because there are many stories on many topics from different times in history. And maybe at the end, you might think, well, what was it all about at the end? Yeah. And so the point is that Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, through these katars, is giving sanskars of a particular swabhav, that means a particular disposition, a particular vichar, a particular conception, and a particular achar, conduct. So this swabhav, these dispositions, conceptions, and conduct, they are the upadan, they're the ingredient causes of the success of our spiritual life. Right. So in the commentary, I've given the 16 essential upadans, essential ingredients. If we have all these 16 ingredients in our life, then our life will become successful. And if any one of them is missing, all the ingredients, it won't work. It won't be wrong. We'll meet with some obstacles. So in the commentary, I present each upadan with examples from here and there in the scripture, and then give the references where that ingredient is also arising in these 34 stories as well, which ones it is like that. So I hope devotees will derive some benefit from this discussion.
I'm sure, yeah.
And come closer to Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur.
Where can we get these from?
Yes, I'll give you the details, and please post it in a link.
I will post it in the description, but on the back of yours says chaitanya.academy.
Yes.
You could probably find the info there, but I'll put it in the description of this video.
I'll give you the information, because persons ordering from India, from Europe and America,
different.
That should
Okay.
They should order from.
We'll put that in the comments. Prabhu, I'm really sorry to cut it short, but we've gone 2.5 hours, and this has been really, really amazing, informative, and transformational for me. And I really am so honored that you came to talk with us.
Thank you so much. It is your kindness and your mercy upon me to give me this opportunity to glorify Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur and all of our acharyas, our Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, my Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami, all the Vaishnavas who've meant so much to me in my life. And just as a closing words to all the devotees who are listening at home, those who have come under the shelter of Srila Prabhupada and his line, they are very, very fortunate. Never have any doubt in this parampara.
Yeah.
Really, it is truly empowered by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And if any doubt comes, seek out advanced association. There's always an answer.
Yes.
There's always an answer.
Yes.
And because the main ingredient in our spiritual life, my Gurudev used to say, Guru Nishta, loyalty and faith to your Guru and Parampara, is the backbone. It's the spine of bhakti.
Yeah.
In other words, if your spine is healthy, you can run quickly to your destination. But if your spine is only slightly injured, you have a spinal injury, you're paralyzed, you cannot move.
Yeah.
Right? So if there's any doubt in your Guru or your Parampara, you become paralyzed in spiritual life. But when you have the nishta, the loyalty, and fixity on your acharyas, then you can run. And after some time, really, the sky will open, and you will see that Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Srila Prabhupada and Vishwanath Thakur and Gokishore Das Babaji Maharaj, they're not like shooting stars that just appeared in the world and disappeared, but they're like so many suns shining above our head at every moment. And when we see that, and they invite us into their eternal Namahat, the eternal marketplace of the holy name, then we can really become an instrument in their service in this world.
Thank you for being that instrument.
Sri Guru Parampara ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai,
Jai.
Srila Gurudev ki jai, everybody's Gurudevs ki jai. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.
Thank you so much.
Radha Raman Lal ki jai, Jai Jai Sri Radhe Shyam.